'Cause I love you, baby. 'Cause I love you, baby. Getting ready for the freestyle. Any moment now. Go ahead, drop it, Eric. Freestyle, go.
Yo, what's up? That's all I got.
Oh, yeah. All right. Fair enough. At least you didn't start it with, my name is Eric and I'm here to say, we're going to take calls on this fucking Sunday. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday show. I swore too early, and now this episode is in danger of demonetization, so feel free to super chat. However, remember that on this Sunday show, we try to dedicate all of the time to calls as we have more of a limit than the average day, so we just put super chats up in a little banner. My name's Jimmy Snow. It is October 22nd, 2023, and to my... What is that to everybody else? To my right? Well, my left. You're to the right of me on your screen.
One of the sides.
How does one say this? Are you even here? Eric!
I don't know. Are any of us here? Like, that's a deep philosophical question.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. It's a big...
unless your heart solipsist, you know.
Thank you for joining us, Eric. People don't know your last name. It's Hovind. Thank you for joining us. This is the Eric Hovind that you've all heard about.
On behalf of all Erics everywhere, I'm really, really sorry about Hovind.
Maybe before the show started, I should have said, hey, just so you know, here's what the lower third looks like. Here's the amount of space it takes up in case you want to tilt or angle or do anything. That's what a professional would have done. But I was doing other things. Like earlier, as somebody live chatted, the line is the shit as the line was taking. Well, never mind. Anyway, the phone number is 720-619-2288. There's also a web link in the description if you would like to call from some sort of international place or from within. If you got better audio equipment and you're ready to have this chat, I will tell you, I saw a whole lot of people. We had a huge influx this week of people in our comment section who are just sure that they know how stupid I am, how stupid Matt is, how stupid Forrest is. A lot of the, wow, these people are really stupid and it would be so easy to, and I extended invitations to several of them to call in or get fucked. And I am sure all of them will call. Just kidding. Even the ones who said they would call, they never call. They just never do. What kind of calls are you hoping for today, Eric? What would be the most exciting thing for you? And the reason why I ask is I plan to jump into VR for the entire show, and you can do it all by yourself.
Oh, well, hey, I got my VR heads up there too. All right, give me 1 second.
Do you? Are you a VR guy?
How's that?
Oh,
Is that
the
better?
Index. You have an Index.
Yeah.
I also have an Index. I will tell you, this has become a daily driver. This thing is amazing.
Hey, I got my cable hanging from the ceiling. That's how VR I am. So
I'll tell you.
No, the calls I want today. I want to be moved to Christ. I want somebody to call in with such solid reason and argument and evidence to back it up that I have no choice but to just drop my pen and just proclaim to the sky, I accept Jesus back into my heart. He was there once before. I kicked him out.
Yeah.
I'm fine with him moving back in. He needs to apologize and give me some reasons why things are the way they are. So I would love to see that today. That's my response to that.
I was thinking of an episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia that I almost quoted, but I was like, I don't want to be that off-putting this early into the show. Like, we still want religious people and Christians to call. So listen, the topic today is, do you really believe in God? But honestly, it's whatever every week. We want to talk to theists. We want to talk to religious people, spiritual people, if you believe in ghosts. All of that kind of stuff is great with us. We are skeptics, and we want to know the truth. We want to know what is out there, and anything that is true, we want to know and accept. Anything that isn't true, we want to not have on our list of things we believe in. And so if that sounds like you, and you've got a belief, and you think you have a good reason for that belief, we want to know. And the reason why I asked the title question, do you really believe in God, is because sometimes I will sit and I'll be thinking about my old self and the things that I used to believe in. And I will say that there are times where it's like, I'm trying to think of how to put it. It almost feels like I don't think I ever really believed in God, because right now, where I live in a world where I accept some things and I believe some things and I don't accept and don't believe some things, I don't do the mental gymnastics I used to do to justify the belief in God. And so I often wonder like what the implication of that is. The fact that I don't have to, if you're lying to yourself, and if that's what's actually going on behind your belief, is that really a belief you have? If your belief is, I believe this because I'm lying to myself, do you know what I mean? Then do you really?
Yeah. Yeah. I sometimes have looked back also, because I look back at my deconversion, and surprisingly, I let go of certain beliefs so easily while I was hung up on others. Like the prospect of living forever, or living, Jehovah's Witnesses believe most of them will live on a paradise earth. So giving up that belief surprisingly was not that much of a hang up for me. But moving to the position that, hey, there's nothing behind a sunset that made that sunset for me, that was more of a hang up for me than the everlasting life part. And looking back on that and thinking about what I went through when I left, I do sometimes question myself and say, was I really a believer? Did I really like have these beliefs? And it's a hard thing. It's been 15 years ago now, and memory starts to get fuzzy, and you start, don't remember quite as well what your mental state was back then, what your thought process was. And the best thing you do is ask yourself, was I telling myself back then? Yeah, back then I was legitimately telling myself I actually believed in God. Actually, I walked the walk, I talked the talk, I tried to do my best. When I deconverted, that was kind of more of a revelation about like what my inner state actually was, by the things that I was upset about, and things I was fine with. And yeah, it's an interesting way to reflect on kind of where I've come from and where I'm going. Gives me a better understanding of myself and everything like that. And yeah, who knows? Maybe I wasn't really a believer and I was just tricking myself. It's possible.
I'd also love to know if anybody watching, we've got calls lining up. We'll hit them here in a second, but I like to throw out my challenges early and often. I'd really love to hear from somebody who feels they have a belief that a skeptic could. We want to talk to people and about why they believe, whether or not it is skeptic, passes the skeptic test. But especially, I would love to hear somebody say, I think that my belief system does pass a skeptic. I think I'm a skeptic, and that my belief lives up to skepticism. I would love to hear from those people, especially anybody who thinks that faith could ever be a skeptic, something a skeptic would value. If you have a faith belief and you believe that there is some reason why a skeptic could ever value faith, I would love to hear that. That would be something I'd be very, very interested in. So go ahead, get your calls in. There are still lines open. You can call and talk to us. I'm getting people's names and stuff in right now. Give us a call. Let's chat. Let's talk about it, and let's see what you got. Put your dukes up. We're ready for you. And for all the people who were like, I'm not going to call when Matt's there, now's your chance. Matt's not here. There's a lot of people who say that when they'll talk about how shitty Matt is in a comment and be like, cool, call him and say it to his face, I would never call Matt. Well, Matt's not here and you're watching all the episodes, so bring it on. Let's talk to Caleb in Montana. Caleb in Montana, you're on the line with Jimmy and Eric. How you doing?
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. I just had a fairly simple question. I was raised in a Christian household and have since deconstructed, and I do not think it is true, so I am classified as an atheist. I lack the belief in God, but everyone around me and in my life tells me that it is true, and they believe it wholeheartedly, even if they haven't done the research. But the reasons they give sometimes confuse me, and I'm not sure exactly how to deal with it. They claim tons of miracles exist and prayer works, and then they send me books. And the book that I've read, it's an interesting book. It's called God's Smuggler. Have you guys ever heard of that book?
No.
No, I have not.
And I've been looking up, and I can't find any reviews of it or anything, so that's why I was wondering. But it's a autobiography of someone who basically claims to have an extremely personal relationship with God. His prayers are answered. He gets healed. Cars work when they shouldn't work. Like, all these crazy miracles are happening. And everyone in my family thinks that these books are completely true. And so I'm wondering how to like bring it up and address that with them when they think all these miracles are happening and it's only from these books that they think that. And it's like the main reason they believe.
So the way I would handle it isn't necessarily the way you should handle it, because I would meet this with such ridicule and condescension. I already don't believe in the Bible. So why would I believe the accounts from some guy? From some dude's Tumblr page printed out and distributed to the masses. What is the reason? And so whenever people are like, will you read this book? Will you read this book? I always ask them a question, which is along the lines of, is there anything this book can give me that other books can't give me with the same justification? Is there an exclusive? Is this exclusively the methods, the things presented in it? Does it exclusively point to only one thing? Or can I go find another book with somebody who has almost the exact same stories, but they come to a different conclusion, like Islam or a different type of Christianity or something of that nature? And then other times, if they're trying to send me fake science books, like somebody this week who was didn't know what the word catastrophism meant and wanted me to read a book on catastrophism by a person who specifically thinks that catastrophism replaces evolution and is a person who has been laughed out of every scientific peer review attempt. Well, he's never ever even really attempted to get peer review, but has been laughed out of scientific circles because it is so plainly and obviously false. So anyway, sorry, that all to say that the simple question I would ask is, why is this better than anything else? What is specific about it than anything else? And can any of it be proven? If he's claiming all these miracles, he's claiming all of this, what method can we use? Can we verify? Can we repeat? Will it be empirical, or is it at the end of the day going to be, this guy's got a really cool story and you feel very moved by it, the way I feel very moved by Gandalf, and it feels better to accept that it's true? Can you actually show me that it's true? That's the closest to a non fucking condescending question.
Yeah. And like, I've read the book, and it's like, if it were true, it would be insanely convincing. So I guess then it's just bringing up the point of, how do we verify it? Is there other books that can claim the same types of things from other religions and stuff like that? So.
Caleb, if it's what you're describing, if it was true and you could confirm it, wouldn't it be the biggest fucking news in the world? I don't know why I'm so cussy today. I'm going to try to stop.
Yeah, that's another good point. I can't even find a review of it from anybody. That's probably pointing to the fact that it doesn't hold much water.
Yeah, is this a book like available on Amazon? Like, does it have a ISBN number on it or anything like that?
What was it called?
Actually, I pulled up a PDF of it, and it's freely available online. I could send it to somewhere, an email address maybe.
That doesn't necessarily mean it was published.
Check it out.
contact@qnaline.com, because this is just getting tastier and tastier. I'm going to feed it to an AI and ask it for the highlights.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was it called again?
It's called God Smuggler.
God Smuggler?
Okay, that is on Amazon by a guy named Brother Andrew.
Yeah. It's about him like bringing books, bringing the Bible to behind the Iron Curtain and distributing it, and like so many miracles happen in this book that he's claiming it. It's kind of a crazy book, but yeah.
As a boy, he dreamed of being a spy undercover behind enemy lines. As a man, he found himself undercover for God. What a tagline.
Unfortunately, that week, his camera was the same camera they got all of the Bigfoot footage with.
Oh, man. So Caleb, Jimmy gave his input on how to kind of respond to your family pushing this book as if it's some type of fact on you. Are you familiar with street epistemology? Have you heard of the term, or are you familiar with the process of street epistemology?
That's good.
I'm not sure if I have. Can you explain it a little bit?
Okay. Yeah, no worries. It's something I only discovered through other YouTube channels about a year ago, and it's something that I find really fascinating. Street epistemology is just a method. It's just a method and a line of questioning that you use to analyze a person's claim and to see if it really holds up to scrutiny, if it really has evidence. The general format of street epistemology is you ask the person you're talking to what, why, and how For instance, if somebody says, hey, this book, I think, has truth inside of it, you can then say, okay, well, let's talk about one of these truths. Can you give me one statement or one claim this book makes that you think is true? And then get them to just simply give you one. And then you can ask them, why do you think that's true? And then they'll give you their reasons. And then once you do that, you ask them the how. How do you know that that's true? And at that point, you can start really kind of digging in and analyzing, okay, do we have other naturalistic explanations for this claim that you believe is true? And as Jimmy touched on earlier, does these claims or does this evidence, like, for instance, if they're presenting faith as some type of reason for believing, ask them, why are you applying faith here but not faith to another religion? What if this claim was coming from a Muslim or somebody who's pushing Islam or somebody who's pushing Scientology or somebody pushing Mormonism or Jehovah's Witnesses religion? Why wouldn't you accept the claim for those religions, but you are for this one? And the whole idea behind street epistemology is to identify contradictions in their belief system, kind of identify cognitive dissonance and magnify it. Magnify that cognitive dissonance, make it uncomfortable, make them on their own later on after the conversation, confront any contradictions you identify in their position. So the best way, in a nutshell, the best way for you to actually address the book is to ask them questions about it and make them justify why they're believing it's true. Yeah. Because if they don't have a good reason, they aren't going to be able to give you one. And then hopefully, the idea is not to convert them or deconvert them right there on the spot. The idea is to plant that seed of doubt in their brain, put that pebble in their shoe, and then let them walk away with that and let them process it on their own. If they're wanting to honestly come to their conclusions, they're going to think about it and come to hopefully a better conclusion after they analyze it on their own.
Yeah. Check out Anthony Magnabosco's channel, Caleb, for a lot of people will be mentioning it in the chat, I'm sure. One of the mods will probably link it if you want to see it on display, how street epistemology works. It's something that you'll recognize as one of the tools we use on this channel pretty frequently. It's I will say some people get into it and can get a little evangelical with it, and I find those people pretty cringy. But
that can't happen.
It is an excellent tool in your toolbox. So yeah, check that out. Happy birthday, Dylan. Apparently it's Dylan's birthday. Caleb, thanks for
happy birthday.
Thanks for the call. We're gonna move on, but check out.
Yeah, I appreciate your time.
My guess is you'll go pull up Anthony Magnabosco because they're also very entertaining to watch. You'll probably end up. That's probably what you're gonna end up doing for the rest of your evening.
All right.
Thanks, Caleb.
Well,
thanks, Caleb.
That number again, 720-619-2288, or there's a web link in the description. Again, we would love to talk to people who want to talk about their beliefs, tell us why they believe in God, if they really believe in God. Dylan Fuller, one of our mods, it is his birthday. So Dylan Fuller, I said I'm gonna try to swear less. So I'm gonna put all of that into this. Happy fucking birthday. And now I'm gonna try to not swear unless it's warranted. As we move on to a call with a theist, we're gonna talk to Robert in Wisconsin. Robert, you are on the line with Jimmy and Eric. Welcome. How are you?
All right, how about you?
Just fine. Are we on speakerphone or is the show on in the background? I noticed we've got a little bit of audio feeding back into us.
Yeah, I took you off speaker.
Cool, thank you. All right, well, it says you wanted to defend your beliefs, but we don't really have any notes beyond that. Do you want to tell us what belief you are specifically calling to contend with?
I'm not calling to contend with anything. Gary told me to call in. He had it open for me.
Gary. Who is Gary?
I'm a Gary on Facebook.
I don't know a Gary.
What's his last name?
So your friend Gary told you to call in is basically all that is the reason why you've called.
Baciscas.
The what?
Gary Baciscas.
I don't know who that is. I assume that's just somebody who watches our show, Robert. Robert,
I don't know. I didn't know that this was one of those like atheist shows or whatever.
Yeah, so did Robert just give you a phone number and say call this line?
Nah, he told me to defend Christianity, but I'm not a Christian anyway.
All right, so
it doesn't really matter.
Let me just quickly explain where you are in case you are. So this is the line. We do a show on Sundays called the Sunday Show, and this is a YouTube show. So it is going out live right now. I'm sure there's somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 people usually watching. And generally we talk about people's religious beliefs, spiritual beliefs, and why they hold those.
Okay.
Is all of that fine with you? Do you want to proceed now that you know all of that?
I mean, that's fine with me. Yeah, I mean, it was fine with me from the get-go. I was just saying that, like, dude told me to call. I don't know why he was telling me to defend it. Like, I mean, you know, when it comes to the word, people have to live it in order to know it.
So
yeah,
can't
we
convince
prefer
you
people.
otherwise.
We prefer people calling in and defending their own beliefs, not the beliefs of others. So, are you?
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah,
say you're a Christian?
I'm not defending nobody else's belief.
Okay, are you a Christian?
I think Robert said he's not a Christian, right?
No, I'm not a
How do you-
Christian, bro.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just me.
All right.
So what is your religious, because it says here that you are a theist, and you just said you have to live the word to know the word, which you're talking to two people who used to live the word and disagree as far as biblical word and then additional words
Correct.
on top of that. Is the biblical word the one which you adhere to?
Correct.
So what is the difference between you and a Christian?
They are more like, we call them watered down. They're watered down. They don't really follow the word.
So you do
Like
believe in Jesus
their
Christ.
belief system is that you can still do whatever you want to, and
Well, that
it's
depends.
fine.
That depends on the Christian. But there are lots of Christians who don't believe that. But
I mean, there's
hang
a
on, Robert.
few.
Hang
I
on,
mean,
Robert. Hang on. Robert, hang on.
most Christian religions believe that.
Hang on, Robert. I just am interested in your belief. So you do believe in Jesus Christ? Yes?
I don't believe in the Jesus Christ that is displayed. I believe in Yahweh Shai.
You believe in the Jesus Christ of the Bible? Yes or no?
Not the one that is mainstream, no.
Okay.
The one
Do
that
you
you
believe
keep
in a
calling Jesus,
non-mainstream Jesus from the Bible?
Yeah, that's not his name, though.
Okay. You liked, what was it, Yeshua?
Yahweh Shai.
Yahweh, fine. But the guy from the Bible who's the Son of God and is resurrected for the redemption of humans' sins, correct?
That's not what it says.
So what, okay, how about, I was only asking you yes or no questions to try and find your beliefs. I don't believe in either of it. So why don't you tell us
correct.
then, give us a 3-sentence, like you're trying to put it on a tweet length bio of what God you believe in and a little bit about that God.
Well, the Most High that I believe in gives everybody free will to choose whether or not they want to follow.
So do you have more than that? The God you believe in gives everybody the free will to choose whether or not they want to follow. What are they following?
Correct. His word.
And where is his word?
In the Bible.
Okay, so you do believe in the Bible, and you believe
Correct.
we should follow the word of the Bible.
Correct.
Why do you believe in the Bible?
Because I have seen the prophecies play out as planned. I have lived it and seen the results of living it, because I lived a different life before the life that I live now. So lived it, seen it.
So what was a
proof.
prophecy you've seen fulfilled?
Oh, I mean, Timothy comes to mind. People become boastful, lovers of themselves, disrespectful to parents.
You believe that's new?
And,
you believe that that's a prophecy that came true and just not
No.
humans?
I believe that we've seen over time it get worse and worse as far as like people's respect for their parents, respect for their guardians, whoever it is, whether it's their grandmother or whoever's taking care of them.
Okay.
So Robert, when that scripture was written, do you think people were boastful, prideful, and disrespectful to parents when that scripture was written?
Are we going to the? Okay. You said what?
Okay.
No. Wait. Robert, do we have your full attention?
Yeah, you got my full attention. What did you say?
All right, Robert. When that scripture in Timothy was written, do you believe that people were already boastful, prideful, and disrespectful to parents at that time?
I mean, yeah, people. I'm sure there were some.
Okay, so Timothy identified something in the world he didn't like, and he predicted. I'm sorry, Paul Paul's letter to Timothy. Paul identifies something in the world he didn't like. He predicted that this will get worse. How is that a prophecy?
Mm-hmm.
Because I can look at Twitter and I can go, I don't like shitheads on Twitter. I think it's going to get worse in the future, right? So that's not a prophecy on my part. How is it a prophecy on Paul's part?
What do you mean? Because what would be your definition of what that would be?
What a prophecy would be?
The comparison isn't
right.
The comparison isn't right.
Are you asking what our definition of a prophecy would be?
You say what?
Are you asking what our definition of a prophecy would be?
His example was a terrible example.
No,
so
Robert, your example was a terrible example because it's pointing to something as a prophecy.
My example is you asked me a question and I gave an answer,
yes,
so you can't say that it's my example. I don't own the example.
It was a horrible answer. I asked you.
It's not a horrible answer. I answered the question.
Robert, I can mute you at any given time, and I'm going to do that. So you don't get to talk over me while I'm trying to finish my explanation. You called and you said, I have this belief. I asked you for what is a prophecy that you have seen fulfilled. And you gave something from the Bible that is honestly trash, vague language, a terrible example that anybody could, as far as the things you could have picked from, there are better ones. I could do your part better than you because I tend to learn both sides, both the side that is mine and the sides that I am fighting against, and I don't think you could. I'm going to unmute you in a moment, but the more important thing is you sat here and said that the prophecies coming true are proof. Those were your words. Every holy book has this type of thing. Vague prophecies that usually start with something about life that already exists around. And then sometimes it's not even prophecies. It's just stuff going on. Wars and rumors of wars. Every holy book has these kinds of prophecies. So what makes the Bible true and everything else false? How would we determine that the prophecies in the Bible actually do affirm that it is true when if the Bible is true, the Quran, the Book of Mormon, and then non-Abrahamic religious holy books would also have to be untrue? How would you do that? I'm unmuting you now, Robert.
So everything you spoke of, we would say that it's true then, correct?
No. I would not say that the Quran or the Bible.
So you contradicting yourself.
Excuse me.
Because you just said that in that time and era.
I'm going to mute you again, Robert. I said that you presented that it was proof. I do not accept it as proof. You said if there are prophecies in the Bible and they came true, that is proof they are true. I disagree. So I gave you the example of other holy books which do the exact same thing. They are vague and shitty, and you can read into them however you like, and you can figure out a way to fill it in however you like. So I have asked you, what mechanism, what should we do when I have Robert and I have insert whatever other names you want for representing other religions, other versions of Christianity, other Abrahamic religions, and other non-Abrahamic religions, who all say mine is true, and you can tell because the prophecies have been fulfilled. You can't all be right, you can't all be wrong, or one of you can be right. How do we figure out among you which one is right, or if everyone is wrong? You're unmuted again now.
Well, the truth is everywhere, so you got to put the truth together.
What is the mechanism?
Nobody owns the truth.
What is the mechanism?
That's why I don't subscribe to religion.
What is the mechanism?
Nobody owns it.
Robert, the question was, are you going to answer the question that you were asked, or are you going to make up some question and just ramble on and sound like a moron talking about, well, the truth isn't owned by anyone. The truth is the truth. And we have to have mechanisms to identify the truth. So do you want to sit here and actually talk like somebody who actually knows the truth and can defend it and has a good reason for it? Or do you want to sound like the all too common evangelical idiot who just has a confidence in it because it makes his pee-pee feel good? Which one do you want to be?
Y'all are funny, bro.
I'm fucking hilarious. You're damn right. But also, can you actually describe a good reason to believe your thing that is independent, that no one could claim for their religion, independently verifiable? Yes or no?
Well, yeah, but like I said,
Okay,
you
go
have
ahead.
to
No,
live
no,
it.
no, no, no. No, like I said, you said yes, now present it. Defend yours with independently verifiable evidence that exclusively points to the truth of your religious belief. All right, bye.
Y'all have to live it.
Eat my
You
dick.
have to live it.
That's literally what they all say. I love this. You have to live it. That's literally what every religion says. Robert, you are a shallow-minded person. Legitimately. Like this is so, it's so sad because there aren't, for the record, that was our first theist call. And I want to make sure that people know that that's not how they all go. We talk to people who are willing to engage honestly. We don't expect them by the end, even when they make concessions, to go, well, now I don't believe. When Father Tom called a couple of weeks, a literal Catholic priest, we didn't end the call by badgering him and saying, so do you admit you're an atheist now? Do you admit you're an atheist now? We had an honest conversation, and those conversations are totally possible to happen. But when you call in and you just sit there and go, I love this. It's so funny. I'm used to being able to just use my overbearing personality and tell people what's true. And usually they just nod along and are polite because I make them so uncomfortable that they don't want to be disagreeable. Nobody's scared of you, Robert, here. And nobody is impressed. In fact, quite the opposite. You make me depressed. Not impressed. I am depressed for the human fucking race because your type of thinking, unfortunately, is popular. And it does things like elect fascists. And we've got now wars going on with two sides that are religiously motivated, that are both gross, but also free Palestine. Just want to make that clear right now. Fucking Palestine is not Hamas. Don't be an idiot. It's just fucking insane that you get that person. That's going to be the person. Please, if you're watching right now, and we've done a little poll, 96% of people who have responded so far say that they are atheists. I just saw that I have a busted lip. I didn't realize that until.
Who punched you?
No one.
Why would anybody punch you?
I don't see people. That's how would you'd have to go around people.
Hey, I want to get my 2 cents in on Robert too. Hey, Robert, only you can ask yourself this honestly, whether or not you called us to engage honestly or not, or you just wanted to laugh and snicker. You could, if you're a real believer, you could have had the words to sway us. You could have had the words to save our souls. Like you could have read Mark 13:11, just let the Holy Spirit flow through you like the Force through Luke when he was fighting Darth Vader, and you could have swayed us. But instead, you took this approach. You didn't answer our questions honestly and directly. You snickered and sneered at us, and you didn't give us any solid answers. You just simply said, the world. You had to find your own truth. Like, that doesn't help us at all. And if your God is real, if your God really is up there and he wants you to evangelize and he wants you to preach and convert, do you think he would be impressed with you right now? You think maybe he might look at you one day and go, you're blood guilty because you could have convinced Jimmy and Eric, but instead you took this attitude? Like, we're here to honestly engage with you, and you give us that.
Yeah. When asked to give you
next time you call in, try harder. Yeah.
Unique, verifiable evidence every single time. It was literally, you can take any Christian and everything you said, they would also say, but they're the wrong Christians, right? Remember, I don't believe I'm not a Christian because Christians tend to not be as right as I am. But the reasons I believe is because I saw vaguely worded prophecies in Timothy fulfilled. None of those fake Christians have done that. Oh, wait, all of them? Every single one? 100%? Oh, shit. And by the way, you'll know if you live it. When you know, you know. Boy, they never say that. Oh, all of them too? Actually, I will say there's like 10% of people who are fucking not dipshits and won't say, when you know, you know. There's a small group of Christians who are like, I won't use that specific douchebag
when you know
thing.
when you know is identical to when you trick yourself, you finally tricked yourself. Like that's all I'm hearing from that. You'll eventually trick yourself with bad reasoning into believing one day. Like that's not what's going to move me or probably virtually anybody else watching this program right now. We want evidence and reason and logic, and you didn't bring any.
Yeah. Yeah, just honest theist, which apparently 4% of the people who voted have said you are. I'd love to talk to one of you. Call in, let us know, give us your honest reasons for believing. Don't lie. Don't fucking sit here and spend the time that you have instead of answering, trying to belittle everyone who isn't you. Be aware of what show you're fucking calling. Gary told me to call in. Who the fuck is Gary? No one the fuck here knows who Gary is. Do you know this channel does like 2 million views a month? I don't know which one of those is Gary. Who the fuck is Gary? Gary, thanks and all, but make sure you let them know where they're fucking calling in the future. One of my friends just became a channel member. Thank you, Jenna. Jenna's the best. I've been noticing lately that I have a large influx of my friend group is becoming heavily lesbian. And I don't know why that is. But I tend to get along best with lesbians. And not like, well, never mind. I was going to start giving categories of lesbians, but I have a feeling people would have a problem with that. So. Hashtag real lesbians.
We'll just chalk it up to one of life's great mysteries and just move on from that.
Yeah. Real.
The safest thing to do.
Them real lesbos, not the fake lesbos. All right. We've got, looks like a theist or two call that are queuing up while those get screened and everything. We'll talk to D in Ohio. D in Ohio, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Can you hear me well?
Yep, hear you just fine.
All right. How you doing, Jimmy? Where am I going to start here?
I don't know, but let's do it.
Well, actually, you know what? This kind of actually helps me with the last call with freaking Robert. I don't know if he was a black dude or not, but I'm assuming he was.
Is that because he was using certain words that you associate with like the black Israelites? Because I noticed that too.
Yeah, listen.
Yeah.
Honestly, that actually made me think even deeper because this goes back to, you remember Kyrie Irving, the basketball player.
Yeah. I can't be anti-Semitic if I know
black people are the real Jews.
Yeah.
Whatnot. And that goes back to Robert. You know how he claimed like, oh, he's not a Christian, but you believe everything Christians believe.
Right.
That makes no freaking sense. Right? So what it is he's not trying to believe in like, the Bible, but like, what am I trying to go here?
It's a superiority complex. That's all he was doing. He wants to be a Christian supremacist over other Christians. And so he doesn't want to be associated with Christianity because he wants to, and like I said,
exactly.
I noticed the key words too, that we were probably talking to somebody who either is a black Israelite or a similarly radical group.
Exactly. And that's becoming a growing problem with people starting to break away from that, and like especially that's going on in my area, my community. I live in Northeast Ohio, so it's rampant up here. The small town where the bigger cities are surrounded by a lot of Christian small towns. Heavy Amish area. I live like right on the border of PA, so yeah, I know. But yeah, so like I was just trying to go to my main concern because I'm trying to go to start like a small movement dealing with Black mental health in the community. That's a huge issue. And my main issue is, and I understand we're probably gonna agree on pretty much damn near everything we say here.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna, and I know you got a time from other callers, maybe other theist callers.
Yeah, and let's also appreciate the juxtaposition of Eric and I are white, so it's not going to be loved by everybody if we go like, here's my solutions for the black community.
Listen, the one thing you don't have to be a part of something to understand something.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what people have to understand, because it's not just in the black community; it's in poor communities too.
Oh yeah.
It's I literally live right now. I could tell you, it's 200 feet away from me, right across the street, looking out the window. It's a church.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah.
So
in the town I live in, there is this hill that is higher than the rest of the hills, and someone built a beautiful church right on the top of it. And it's like actually a legitimately great looking thing, and yet I still sit there and I go, this was an asshole move. Have you ever been to Denver, D?
No, but I do want to. Mainly because I like smoking weed.
Yeah, oh hell yeah. The best weed in the world is in Denver. But
that's what I'm doing literally right now. I'm playing video games. But yeah. Go ahead.
Hell yeah. Do we have your full attention, D? I asked the last guy that. No, if you go to Denver, one of the things that really frustrates me is during the day you'll watch the sunset and you'll see along it sets on the mountains, and it's one of the most beautiful sunsets that you can see. They're actually like Colorado is famous both for its sunrises and sunsets because not only do you have this beautiful mountain scene, but also the pollution is just the right color to make it like so these like golden pink sunsets. They're amazing. And then the sun goes down and lights on the mountain turn on. And if you want to enjoy the silhouette of the mountains out to the west of you, you better be a Christian because they have put giant crosses and stars and these religious symbols on the sides of the mountain in a way that I think actually should be illegal because it is an imposition to like you are pushing your religion or at least your religious imagery on everybody around for miles and miles.
I like I said, just to give the general area where I live, I live in Youngstown. I don't know if you ever heard of it. Very shitty place. South the point where it's surrounded. This Ohio and PA, so literally surrounded by all that. So what you're saying, I see it probably tenfold. Like I know Trump came down here. Can't remember when he came down here. He did. Nah, but Youngstown is a bigger city in our area, but he decided to go to this very small town outside to campaign there, which is Vienna, already known to be a racist town. But that's besides the point.
Yeah.
But I know exactly what you mean. But it is some beautiful landscapes around here. But
yeah,
like I said, it goes back to what Robert. That's the main issues because you know how the Jewish people are supposed to be the chosen people and they go with the suffering and I see black people using slavery as an excuse for that now, and I'm like, hold up. The indoctrination got so deep now people are starting to turn into house, you know what, and and Uncle Ruckuses and you name it. And it's
we're both very uncomfortable.
And me actively being surrounded by that, like
we don't know how much we're allowed to chuckle at what you just said. It's certainly if we laugh too hard, that would be a problem. But if we didn't laugh at all, it would make it seem like we didn't get it. We got it.
Just to keep you guys monetized.
Yeah.
I'll probably as a black person, probably have better black jokes than a racist person. But
yeah, we'll keep them off the air. We'll do that after the show. D, let's hone in on a question.
I'm not going to waste any more of you guys' time. Okay, I just want to say, Jimmy, I appreciate you guys' work so much. Like, you don't understand, I'll be watching. I mean, I could go down a list of like Holy Kool-Aid. I mean, everybody, Atheist Experience, Talk Heathen, The Line, even Transatlantic. I watch it all. This is my first call ever. I've been watching it for probably since 2012. I was like in 10th grade.
Yeah.
So
you saved the best for first. D, a little bit of recommendation for you if you're probably already aware of them because we've done some. But if you're looking at forming some communities, reach out to Black Non-Believers because they'll give you some resources for helping you do the community setup. Yeah, for sure.
I forgot who it was. I know maybe it was a few weeks back. Guys had a black guy. He was tall, 6'5". He was a teacher. Forget his name.
Oh, a teacher? Was he a counselor for parenting?
No, he was a host. I watched this show. I would like to see more of him. I forgot his work. I don't know if you can send a link or whatever. I'll give you guys my email. I don't know.
The only person who's coming to mind when you say that was a parenting counselor that was on Skeptalk with Forrest. I'm also terrible with names. It might have
been. He had. I know he was really tall. He was talking about. I know he was talking about like raise like disciplining and like child. I forget what it was. It was something like child abuse and stuff like that, and how to raise a child properly, especially in the black community. I like what he was talking about because that's another main problem. Because that is also a part of the religious indoctrination. So
it was Gabriel Hannons is who I think you're talking about.
It might just be.
Yeah, Gabriel Hannons.
Thank you guys. Cool. I'm gonna let you guys go. Get some theist callers. I waste enough of your time.
It's all good. No worries. Thanks, D.
And Jimmy, you're an asshole, and I love you because I'm an asshole too.
Good enough. CD. Awesome.
I'm not an asshole. Am I left out of this club?
You fucking wish.
Let's try harder.
You wish. Let's talk to Ryan G in Canada. Ryan, you're on the line with Jimmy and Eric.
Hey there, Jimmy, and hey there, Eric. Happy Sunday, guys, and I'd like to send a message of love and acceptance out to the viewership.
Cool. Thank you. Now, what's your question? Let's fight. I'm just kidding. We'll do whatever you want. We'll take it whichever direction you like.
Yeah, so actually within the topic, I believe God loves each of his children, and I'm open to discussion regarding the topic.
Okay. Sorry, so is the topic you want to discuss whether or not God loves each of his children? Or are you saying you want to start by saying you believe God loves each of his children, but you are now down to discuss your belief broadly?
Second option.
Okay. So Ryan, which God?
Personally, I'm a Christian, but I wouldn't argue specifically for the Christian God.
Which other gods do you believe exist besides the Christian God?
Well, I believe there's a creator of the universe. That's the one I guess I would be referring to specifically.
Okay, and do you believe that one is separate from the Christian God?
I guess there's different ways that you can look at it. I follow Christianity specifically, but if I'm looking to defend the position that God exists from a scientific point of view, I guess I would step away from Christianity regarding certain points that I guess can't be scientifically proven.
I get it. So what you're basically saying is the way in which you would defend that a God exists is you would use deistic sort of argumentation, things like the Kalam cosmological argument, teleological argument, argument from objective morality. These types of arguments are the sorts of things you would try and say, this is why I believe a God exists. But then you also, separate from that, Ryan, believe that the Christian God is that God, but clearly there is a gap between what you think is justified on the deistic side, and if we said that it was justified, there's a gap between saying, okay, now, yes, a deistic God exists on the basis of those arguments, if we accepted that, all the way to Christianity. Do you acknowledge that? Or is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate, Jimmy.
Great. So, which one do you want to do? Do you want to defend the deistic God, or do you want to defend the Christian God that you make the jump for?
Let's start with the deistic.
Why do you believe there is a deistic God?
I believe that there's.
Why do you believe there's a God? Okay,
I believe there's a creative force in the universe that is responsible for truth and order in the universe.
Ryan, you're answering what? I'm asking why, not what. I already know what people believe about a creator God or a deistic God or whatever. Why do you believe there is that basic God?
For me, that's the most rational explanation.
Okay, so now rationally defend it. Give me a rational reason why.
Repeat the question. I believe you chipped out, Jimmy. Can you repeat the question?
That's it. It was just why. It was still why, but with now rational. Use only rational statements now to defend that God exists, because you said you believe that is the most rational conclusion. So now rationally defend the conclusion.
Yeah, so we know that truth exists. Human beings are able to observe truth within the universe. And we're able to observe that there are 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. And that's essentially the truth that the entire universe abides by.
Okay, so now that you've said what you just said, rationally defend why you believe in God, because that was not an answer to the question I asked at all. All you've said is there are 3 dimensions that humans experience. There are actually more than 3. And there's a dimension of time. There's more than that as well, but none of that points to a God. Otherwise, quantum physicists would be the first to go, boy, we started looking lower and lower, and we got past these particles that are insane. And there he was, a dude with a beard. Hasn't happened yet. So, or any version of that that's less silly. So now, rational reasons why you believe in, again, not the Christian God. We're just doing your creator, first cause, whatever God you're trying to do.
Yeah, so we know that there's a truth and order and within the universe.
Right.
So that is the three dimensions of space and the one dimension of time that we live within.
Ryan,
Now, yes.
we all agree that there is truth, and to some degree there is order, if you're referring to like laws and all of that stuff. Obviously, there are things that we would also call non-ordered, but those are more subjective and human and things like that. So we agree on that. Now, I say when we look out at the universe and we describe those things, that what we are doing is exactly what I just said. We're describing them. We're describing that which we find. Your belief with a creator God would be a prescriber, that there was an individual out there who went and said, this thing that you will later describe, I'm prescribing. There's a prescription before the description. Why do you believe in the prescriber for about the 9th time now, Ryan?
Yeah, and Ryan,
Well,
Ryan,
without
just
prescriber, Jimmy,
Ryan,
there would be complete chaos in the universe.
Why?
There wouldn't be order within the universe. There wouldn't be 3 dimensions of space.
Why
there wouldn't
would
be
there
one
not be
dimension.
order? How do you know that there wouldn't be order in the universe without a prescriber? Because right now, there is nothing that actually, we have not seen a prescriber. We don't currently have evidence of a prescriber. You believe in a prescriber. So why?
Well,
why do we
we
know?
actually do have evidence of a prescriber, and
We absolutely do
the
not.
evidence
It
is
would be the
truth
biggest
and
news in
order
the
that
world.
exists in the universe.
Sir, you
Yes, sir.
don't know what you're saying.
I
Truth
absolutely
and
know
order.
what I'm saying.
No, you don't, because you just ignored completely what I said. I don't believe in a God, and I don't need to look out at order and look out at truth and describe it. We can describe truth and order together. You have added another step, and you have made a proclamation that there is a prescriber to that which we describe. Therefore, you have now taken on a truth claim which comes with a burden of proof. You do not get to look at the same thing we already both did, because we've already done the only conclusion we can as far as order and truth. We describe them. You have an independent claim from the order and truth that order and truth is prescribed. It's called circular reasoning if you try to then go, yeah, the describe and the prescribe are the same thing with the same evidence. That's circular reasoning. You don't get to do it. That is fallacious. So what proof, with the burden of proof that you have accepted to your claim that a prescriber exists, do you have?
Yeah, so without the prescriber, the order and truth does not exist, and we're left with infinite chaos.
No. How do you know that? I just explained to you why that was nonsense. And if you would have listened to me and internalized it, you would have not said that same thing. So either you didn't listen to me or it went over your head. You are using circular reasoning. You're saying, well, there is a creator because there is ice cream. And then when someone says, okay, prove that that creator exists, you'd say there wouldn't be ice cream if there wasn't a creator. But we live in a universe that is apparently able to produce ice cream, if that is the universe, without a creator. I can prove when I personally make ice cream that I exist, and when Eric makes ice cream and shares it, I can prove Eric exists. We can do all of that, and we don't have to do a single thing with the ice cream or point to the ice cream to prove that creator exists. We can independently prove the qualities of its creator. So stop using circular reasoning. You don't get to just say there wouldn't be ice cream. You have a positive claim of a prescriber, of an ice cream maker. Now prove it.
Yeah, well, the proof is the order and the truth in the universe.
No, the proof of an ice cream creator is not the ice cream.
Well,
Jesus Christ. It has been explained to you now in 5 ways.
If we want to look at it from a different perspective, Jim, we can look at it from a mathematical perspective.
Hang on, I'm going to let Eric talk to you because Eric wants a shot at you. You want it, but first, if you look at it from a different, I have done this now metaphor with you, something like 5 different ways. And then I took it down to the most childish thing I could, like on The Office, when Michael needs surpluses explained to him in terms of having a lemonade stand. And you have still ignored it and used circular reasoning. If you have a bowl of ice cream and you assert that there is an ice cream maker, You don't get to say that the proof of the ice cream maker is that there is ice cream. Now, you and I, living in a universe with literal ice cream, know that that's probably always going to be the case. But as far as if you had to actually prove it, empirically, logically, rationally, however you like to do so, you would not just present the ice cream, you would present the creator and the proof for the creator.
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you,
No,
Jimmy.
you haven't done it once. You've said it's the ice cream every time. You've not presented the fucking creator once. You keep handing me a bowl of ice cream. And you don't apparently get it.
There's no reason for expletives. There's no reason for expletives.
Yes, there is, Ryan.
Get angry. We're just having a simple conversation.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is reason for both. One, because you're not listening. You're continuing to repeat.
Why bring emotions into the equation? Is it necessary?
Excuse me, Ryan. You just asserted something and I am responding to it. There is reason for swearing and for emotion because it is very frustrating when
who died? Who went to the hospital?
Ryan, humans have emotions outside of just when who died and someone went to the hospital. Do not interrupt me again. Do not interrupt me again. All right, and so we're muting it. We're muting you because you don't understand the fucking rules. And I would have hung up except I promised Eric that I would give him a piece of your ice cream apologetics ass. There is reason for anger. There is reason for frustration. We have, how many people are watching right now? It's going to be like 1,500, I would guess. We've got 1,600 people, 1,618 people watching right now in a show where we say, why do you believe? And people agree to have these conversations. And you set the terms that if we did a deistic creator God, you'd be able to give rational reasoning. And then you gave circular reasoning, which you have had explained every which way, wasting my time and everybody else's time because you refuse to listen and move to what would actually be a rational defense of your position. So yes, I am frustrated. And when I am frustrated, I swear. And by the way, there is communicative benefit to expressing yourself emotionally and expressing yourself with certain words because it makes the other person aware what the effect of their, in this case, non-listening is doing. So now I will stop with you. You do not get an opportunity to respond to what I just said. You only now get an opportunity to engage with Eric. That's the rules. Deal with it. I'm unmuting you now, and you can talk to Eric.
Hi, Ryan. You still
Hi,
there?
Eric.
Okay.
Hi,
Hey,
good
Ryan. So let me take a little bit of a different approach. I agree with everything Jimmy just said, by the way, but I will try to keep swearing out of it and all that. So because I want to communicate with you. So we asked you at the beginning, why do you believe that a God that fits the deistic model exists? And you mentioned that the universe exists, we have rational reason, truth exists, humans observe this truth, 3 dimensions exist, so on and so forth. And then when we ask you, why does that necessitate a creator God for those things to exist, you then just proceed to add more attributes to the universe, making the universe, your description of the universe, more complex.
Well, let me stop you, Eric.
Hold on. I'm getting to something here.
You don't get to stop anybody, just so you're aware. Yeah. You get to stop no one.
I'm just recapping how we've gone so far. I haven't even asked a question yet. I don't want to put words in your mouth, okay? But I want to ask you this. Are you basically pointing at the universe and saying, hey, I see these mysterious, unexplained things in the universe. It is complex. It is mesmerizing. It is amazing. Are you saying that you cannot imagine a universe like this existing without a creator God?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. What I'm seeing is infinite chaos without a force acting upon that infinite chaos to create truth and order within the universe.
Hold on. Okay. I can appreciate that line of thinking because I once thought like that too. All right. Let me ask you this. Are you familiar with something called the argument from incredulity?
No, I'm not, Eric.
Okay. In its formal form, it basically, it's a logical fallacy. It's bad thinking, but in its formal form, it basically says, I cannot imagine X to be the case naturally. Therefore, X must be the, I'm sorry, take that back. I cannot imagine X being the case unnaturally. Therefore, X must be the case naturally, or vice versa. So you're basically saying, I can't imagine a universe like this existing naturally. Therefore, the universe must exist somehow unnaturally. It must be created. That's a logical fallacy. It doesn't work. You're basically painting a gigantic argument from incredulity here.
I would want to argue, Eric. I think we're basically saying the same thing. We're looking at it from different perspectives. But
No, well, I'm not saying we are obviously arguing because we're debating over this, but you're employing a massive logical fallacy in your reasoning here. You're saying because you lack the imagination to see the universe existing the way it is without a God, therefore it must have a God, and that's not reasonable thinking. You must, and that goes back to what Jimmy was asking you earlier. We're asking
Desktop
you, please
3,
link us.
MetaQuest remote desktop pane.
I don't know why my
I'm hearing
computer
voices.
just did that.
It's all right.
Narrator dialogue. Skip for now. Narrator
It's being
window.
weird.
Your computer
Welcome
is
to
very rude,
exiting
Jimmy.
narrator.
I must have hit buttons to start narrating.
Just interrupting me.
Yeah, it wasn't intentional. It's funny though.
Where was I? So Ryan, we asked you a few times now, what necessitates this God? What about the universe being complex requires a God to exist? And making the universe more complex does not answer that question. We're asking you why. What is that logical link between the universe is complex, therefore a God must have done it?
yeah, so Eric, what I'm trying to point out is that we're both basically saying the same thing, in that the infinite chaos existed before 3D space and time, and that a force must have acted upon the infinite chaos
okay, right
to
there.
create
Boom,
order
boom,
and
right
truth
there.
within
A
the
force
universe.
right there.
Now, I call that force God.
I'm
You might
muting
give it
you
a
now because I now have control now too. All right, I just muted you. You said a force must have done this. Please explain to me why a force must have done this and why that force is a God.
You also missed the two things he lied about, but go ahead with that one.
I probably did.
Hey there, guys. I got a beep. I'm not really getting any
Yes, you're
clear
unmuted.
communication happening here. But I'm happy to answer any question. Eric was in the middle of answering a question, of asking a question before I got that beep.
Okay, I'll ask you in the middle of your response there. I had to mute you because you said something that is the crux of our problem here in this argument. You said that a force must be what explains our universe, and you're saying that force is a God. And I'm asking you, how do you know that?
It could be no other way. We know that there is order and truth within the universe.
How do you know that?
We know that there was a. We know that.
How have you eliminated
there was
all of the possibilities and left
that
the
was
God
not always
as the
the
only
case.
meaning?
I believe science refers to it as the Big Bang.
Ryan, you have to stop.
Yeah.
If Eric asks you a question, you don't get to keep going on with your non-point. You once again just tried to answer Eric by handing him the bowl of ice cream. You've lied twice because you've said, I look around and see infinite chaos, which you've never done. You also lied a second time when you asserted that Eric and I believe in something before the Big Bang. And that something, infinite chaos and whatever else existed before the Big Bang. The concept of before the Big Bang actually makes no sense to me. I don't think Eric has a single belief about anything before the Big Bang. Before is an establishment of time. Time appears to have began with the Big Bang. So to say before is nonsensical, is likely nonsensical until you can prove otherwise. So Ryan, you complain about the communication you're getting when you just keep handing the bowl of ice cream, when you don't know how to do anything besides circular reasoning, and your justification for your circular reasoning is, I look out and it just seems so incredible. How could it be anything else? And then you claim something, actually your third lie, it couldn't be anything else. All right, if it's not a lie, then tell us the mechanism by which you eliminated, as Eric already asked you, every other possibility.
It's mathematically provable. It's mathematical fact, Jimmy.
No, it isn't.
It absolutely is.
It is
And I
not.
can present all of it to you.
Go ahead and present the mathematical proof that a prescriber is required.
Well, we can look at mathematics and we can see the difference between the infinite chaos and the finite reality that we live within. We can do that.
What is the infinite chaos? Describe the infinite chaos.
All right, what I want you to do, Jenny.
No. I'm gonna fucking be Matt right now. No. Are you still talking? Oh, you're still talking. No. Are you still talking? Okay, good. You stopped. Describe the infinite chaos.
Gladly. The infinite chaos is dead, cold. It is,
Where do you locate the infinite chaos?
outside of time and space.
How have you looked outside of time and space?
Yeah.
We can use mathematics
No, you
to make
cannot.
observations
Sir,
regarding
no,
the
you
infinite.
cannot. Ryan, this is what I said earlier. You have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just waiting
I
for you to
absolutely
hit
have an
find...
idea of what I'm talking
No,
about.
you don't, Ryan. No, you fucking don't. And I can prove it to you, Ryan. Would you like me to right now message a quantum physicist and book him again so you can call and give your stupid... There's no such thing as outside time and space. The only thing that could potentially exist outside of time and space would be quantum field, which is space. So even that can't exist out of time and space. You have never once looked outside of time and space. And I asked you where to find it, and you said an unfindable location. Ryan, you do not know what you are talking about. I, by the way, don't know shit about quantum physics, but I know how to smell when a theist is trying to appeal to it, because they don't fucking know what it means. They think, oh, well, you know, quantum physics basically just says anything can happen at any time for any reason. And so the fact that it doesn't means that there's a God, because instead we have truth and order. Okay, Ryan, we can look outside of time and space and find the chaos. Show me the telescope that we can do that with. What's the model number? I'll order it on Amazon right now.
I think you're getting really emotional, Jimmy.
Ryan, shut the fuck up about emotions. Emotions doesn't fucking matter. I'm sitting here ridiculing a moron. That's what I'm doing. Because you're sitting here saying I can defend it rationally and then had the audacity to just say we can look outside of time and space.
Jimmy, we can look at mathematics. Okay. We can look at mathematics to make observations regarding the infinite and the finite. That is the truth. That is the scientific truth.
Where does math allow us to observe outside of time and space? Tell me the mathematical theory that does that. What's the equation?
If you give me just a few minutes, I'll show it to you.
No, because you can't show it because that's impossible. You're going to sit there and go, you're going to hand me back the stupid fucking bowl of ice cream again. Ryan, are you going to call when we have the physicist on again? Do you need me to book him now live on air? Why haven't you called when he's on?
Sure, do whatever you want to do, Jimmy.
Yeah. Thanks for the permission. Thanks for the permission. I'll just do what I wanted to. Oh, do it. I fucking failed. I called in saying I could rationally defend this, and I said I don't want to do the gap between deism and Christianity because I know I can't. I'm going to have to allude to faith at some point, and no smart person has faith at all. No person with a working brain relies on faith anymore. But I don't want to do that.
I was going to go to church today, Jimmy, and
I don't care. I give a shit. Eric, do you have anything left for this asshole?
So to me, mathematics is the language we use to describe our universe. So if you're trying to use mathematics to describe something that isn't our universe, I don't even know if that's going to work or make sense. Like the whole concept of before the Big Bang, as you brought up, probably a nonsensical statement. Before time starts. Like,
outside of time and space.
Yeah.
Yeah, both the infinite chaos and our finite reality both exist. And if you
don't even know what the infinite chaos is.
If you're not able to...
Those are terms you're just using. You don't know what that phrase means. Infinite chaos.
And Ryan, I could grant you, for the sake of argument, I could grant you that all those things exist and we can somehow study and analyze them and perform math on them. I can grant you all of that. And you still can't bridge that to a creator being.
I certainly can. I absolutely can.
How would you? That's been the question we've been asking you this entire call. How would you?
There's ice cream.
You can make this universe.
You know what the evidence is? You know what the absolute evidence is?
The ice
love.
cream.
And there's evidence for the existence of love. It's absolutely true.
Ryan, I thought you couldn't get more stupid. We know love is a human thing, what we call love. We can look at it in your fucking brain. We actually have fundamentally biological understanding of this thing that we're calling love and attachment. And by the way, that love is just used broadly. I thought you couldn't get worse. It's like you said, well, you know what else is the proof? Water turns to ice at a certain temperature. Nope, we know how that one works too, you fucking boob. Jesus fucking Christ. Now say quantum and then misquote some laws of thermodynamics. Hit the whole thing.
Why not hate? Why not hate be the evidence that God exists? Why does it have to be love? Why not disgust? Why not mild, awkward amusement when somebody farts? Like any emotion can be used in place of love.
The fact that we exist is an expression of love. The fact that we were provided for daily is an expression of love.
Humans suffer every day, so the fact that we exist is evidence of hate.
I work my ass off to provide for me and other people. It's not evidence of anyone besides myself, dipshit.
Do you see how if we just simply replace a simple word in your argument, it kind of becomes absurd?
Yeah.
No, I don't see that.
Hand us back the bowl of ice cream. Hey, what's the third law of thermodynamics, Ryan?
Huh?
What's the third law of thermodynamics?
Tell me, Jimmy. I'm curious. Tell me.
No. You must know what it is because you keep talking about the infinite chaos. I assume you're an expert.
I'm not God, Jimmy. I don't know all truths. I'm not God, Jimmy.
Yeah, this is the point. God. This is the point. You heard this in church or in some book, and you thought, this sounds really great. Because I, an incredulous individual, don't understand how the universe doesn't just fall apart and fall into chaos. Because when I see something explode like a firework, that just seems like pure chaos to me. So I'm going to say things like infinite chaos and before the Big Bang, and I'm not even going to know what a fucking... Do you know any of the laws of thermodynamics? Children know the first one.
If you want to belittle me and ridicule me, Jimmy, that's completely up to you. If you want to describe thermodynamics,
I want to do that. Actually, thank you for the permission. You are a stupid person, and if we continue to leave you on the line, our IQs will collectively drop. May the universe have mercy on your quote-unquote soul. Gross. Goodbye. I do want to ridicule you. You're right. Just all you have to do is be honest. That's all you have to do on this show, and don't try and talk over the host. Yep. That's it. And sitting there, stop trying to hand me the fucking ice cream.
We've had 2,000 years of Christianity now. We've known about quantum mechanics now for what, 40, 50 years, something like that. Einstein called it spooky magic or whatever like that. So, but 70 years of quantum mechanics. So in that other 2,000 or 1,900 years of Christianity spreading, why wasn't it required to invoke quantum mechanics and the infinite chaos and the three dimensions and the fact that truth exists? Like, what wasn't all that required to convert and convince people? Like, why bring that to the table when there are simpler, more straightforward reasons to believe that have worked for 1,900 years, apparently? But when you call, you're bringing this to the table.
You know what
I can only conclude that I can only conclude that he's either trying to troll or he's trying to navigate and muddy the waters so much that it's impossible to pin him down on anything. Like, that's the only two possibilities I see here. I honestly don't think that Ryan thinks that these are good reasons. I think he's presenting these because
I do. I think his brain's that bad. I think
whatever.
He's that shallow-minded of a person that his assertion, the things that makes him feel good, the things that makes him think that the Holy Spirit is moving through him, I think it is that bad. I think it is that low, and that it is. You already identified it earlier in the call. It is his incredulity. Yeah. He finds, and this is what I find because I'm an autistic person, so I have a very different relationship with emotions than a neurotypical person is. And when people like to take things like love and all of that and go, it's just this incredible thing, as far as we can tell, I experience it at just the same level as everybody else, and yet I'm able to step away and go, nah, bro, that's chemicals. That's some chemical rushes, to the point that now it's predictable what causes those chemical rushes. You could bottle this shit, and they probably will at some point. They'll probably bottle it. They'll probably, maybe not literally bottle, but neurostimulate the feelings of being loved and not alone, and just all that.
Inject some love into your veins.
Hell yeah. It's simple, Rick.
Yeah. But Ryan, final notes, Ryan. Look up the argument for incredulity. Yeah, I know. I'm talking to him. I know he's off the line. Look up the argument for incredulity. Look up why it doesn't work. Figure out that because you can't imagine something being the case, that doesn't mean it's not the case. Like, your inability to come up with an explanation does not mean the opposite of that explanation is true.
Do you know what I want to ask? So 2 things. One, Eric, I give you permission to be on this show that you're already on. I just wanted to do what Ryan was doing, which was give permission for something that's already happening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so
for
much.
Giving me permission.
I give you permission
to ridicule.
I give you permission to give me permission to be on the show and ridicule. Thank you. Great. Okay, I'm glad we got it that way.
I just like that. The thank you for permitting me to make fun of how fucking stupid you were. Number two, I would like to ask an astrophysicist, with how large the universe is and the ways in which, is there a possibility that somewhere in the universe is what we would fundamentally identify as pretty close to indistinguishable from ice cream, but that would have risen from non-biological processes? A purely chemical is that how big the universe is? Certainly in the multiverse, if it exists, but purely chemical, non-biological ice cream somewhere.
It's hypothesized that there's actually quite a lot of life in our universe. It's just not much of it makes it past the singular cellular organism level. So there's probably lots of like planets, like slime ball planets out there.
Ice cream probably exists across the universe on a biological scale. Like
I'm willing to bet if you licked one of those planets, it would probably taste like ice cream.
Yeah, I'm asking. Yeah.
And then you die, but it would probably work. Yeah.
A purely chemical, because we can make ice cream without. Well, probably not yet. I don't know that we can, because there's bacteria and stuff involved with it. I'm just wondering whether or not the cellular structure can be synthesized, though that's a weird word to use in here, by natural processes if things line up just right. And if that, however unlikely it is, still wouldn't be more unlikely than just our life, human life, I feel like. Is the universe big enough to make ice cream happened?
You can make ice cream without dairy. McDonald's does all the time.
Well, can you though? It's kind of like people who like, this vegan pizza is just like real pizza. You can't tell the difference. Well, you can't tell the difference. Okay. Look, if we want to have an argument on veganism, we can have that argument, but not on the basis of it's just the exact same food. These vegan hot dogs, they taste exactly like real hot dogs because real hot dogs take like socks, right? That's what I remember. Those good old sock dogs. All right, Adam in Germany. I'm positive that this is going to go better than the last caller because Germans are more honest, I think. I just made that up. But Adam, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
Good. Welcome to the show. You're on with Jimmy and Derek.
Thank you. I would like to start by saying that the double slit experiment, you know that?
Yes, we talked about it last week, actually, or 2 weeks ago.
I farted on this bad boy!
Okay. I don't even know what he said.
Good job.
What did he say?
I don't know.
Well, it still was better than the call before, even though it was just... How long did you wait on hold? 12 minutes. Okay, I guess it wasn't that bad. You waited for 12 minutes just to do nothing? What about your life is more fulfilled? What has been done? Nobody knows who you are. You don't get credit for it. It was an anonymous call. You don't get credit. Only you know. Does this get you laid? What was the point?
He's gonna bookmark this. He's gonna bookmark that timestamp in the video and just pull it up every once in a while when he needs a lift. I don't know.
I think it was like... Yeah. Oh, I farted on this bad boy. He. By the way, I could have cut you off quicker. I didn't. I wanted to see if it was going somewhere. It just wasn't like, here's the thing. Here's why that call annoys me. Not because you yelled. Because my thing has pretty good audio. It's fine. Not because you wasted time. Not because you cost me $1 or whatever it was for you to be on hold for 12 minutes. Not because of any of that. Fundamentally, you called to do something funny, and then you didn't. Your joke sucked. It was a bad, and by the way, I know something about this. I've been elected the funniest man in the world, which is a lot of pressure. You should all know.
For sure.
I take that, it's a heavy weight on me. As everybody has agreed with the now very repetitive outros on our clips that people are constantly expressing their affection for, because I made like 10 of them 6 months ago and I haven't updated them in that time. So it's the same 10. Hey, I'm Jimmy Snow. I switch Matt's cereals at night, or I've got Forrest Valkai in my basement, that kind of shit. I'm not annoyed that you decided to do a trolley joke thing. I'm mad that it wasn't good. It wasn't funny. It wasn't original. Like, you may have well as Baba Booeyed it. Howard Stern's penis. just go straight with the Family Guy reference, which I know is a reference to stuff from before that. Before somebody goes, is that what Jimmy thinks it's from? If you just slightly misspeak on this, and somebody leaves a comment as though it's your whole personality. I apparently referred to phenomenon, the plural, as just phenomenon. I didn't say phenomena. And someone made a thing about this. Is this what Jimmy still thinks, that the plural of phenomenon is phenomenon? It's just like, fucking Christ.
I like how we're having memes of memes these days. Like you can think that, this quote came from this, but no, that quote was from a different source. And yeah, we're getting too many layers deep, and it's going to get nothing but worse.
What a boring fucking joke. Again, that's the problem. We'll move on to calls. Yes, we have more. We'll jump on them. I just wanted to express that I don't care that you spent the time, you spent my money, you did all of that. I care that it wasn't worth it. But you farted on that bad boy. All right, let's sweat that out and move on to Theo in Tennessee. Theo in Tennessee, are you here to fart on this bad boy? Or, oh man, this is going to make a weird clip. Hang on, let's just redo that. Because that context won't be present in the clip. All right, we're moving on to Theo from Tennessee, a theist who wants to talk about Christianity versus atheism. Theo, you are on the line with Jimmy and some guy. That's Eric.
Oh, yeah. Hello, Jimmy. Hello, some guy. Thanks for having me.
For sure.
Hope you guys are well. Hope you guys are blessed. And I hope that, you find Christ, right? Because he is good. He is holy. Worthy of all glory, honor, and praise.
So we wouldn't be blessed though, right? Because blessings only come from God to those who believe, if I have my doctrine correct. So I don't know how we would be blessed, because not only do we not believe, when it comes to a Christian God, a Muslim God, any of these blesser gods, we actually, I don't know about Eric, but those are where I hold strong atheism claims. I don't just say I don't believe in the Christian God. I assert that God does not exist.
Yeah. And good things happen to me all the time, but I don't believe in a God. Am I being blessed, or are there just good things happening to me?
You are being blessed. Like the Bible says that God reigns on the just and the unjust. We all have a relationship with him, and he's always calling us to him.
So why is that? We'll get into the why you believe in a minute, but we're sitting right now, Theo, you're calling a channel that is currently sitting at 99,605 subscribers. We are under 400 now from 100,000. When we hit that 100,000 mark, we become an official verified channel. We get access to a little bit better tools and higher priority. And God has just let that happen, even though there are things he could easily have done to prevent all of these things from happening. Things we wouldn't have even suspected were him. Could have modified the algorithm, make sure less people got the notifications and the like. Why is God blessing not just to atheists, or you could maybe even call us anti-theists, depending on your definition of that word, but blessing the very anti-theistic things they are doing and helping them to be more effective and help more people see their way out of this God truth that you believe see their way away? Why is God blessing us, the unjust, or I think you said on both the just and unjust, why is he blessing us specifically to make us better at this?
Well, God allows you, to make your choices.
Not really, though.
To take action.
You don't actually believe that, because you just said God blesses. You believe God interferes with people's life all the time. So that's not really true, is it?
Like God interferes.
If God is giving blessings, he is doing things that are not just us getting to live out free will. If people do you believe it's a blessing when a child comes out healthy, by the way? I'm just curious.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think would happen if God wasn't blessing people with healthy children? They just come out not healthy?
Sure. Yeah, they become.
But we actually know the natural process, and we know that most children are going to be born healthy because evolution has made a pretty reliable reproductive. If by the time you hit birth, that both the mother in most cases will survive and the baby will survive, though those rates have been largely changed over history. So it's not actually been God's blessings, though, that have been changing those rates. It's been modern medicine, modern science, and then also availability, whether or not you come from an impoverished community or a community of people that medical institutions take more or less seriously. And so we can measure all of those, and we can look at the economic reasons for it, the sociological reasons for it. But you think it's God's blessings. Just odd. It's odd. And again, if you believe that something as mundane as that is a blessing from God, then there's no real such thing as free will, because God is constantly moving the levers and pushing the buttons and twisting the cranks on the world and deciding which babies are healthy and which aren't. So you don't really believe in free will at all, do you?
Well, yeah, God works all things together for good for those who love Him and for His glory. With regards to free will, free will is a bit.
You just made a claim. We're going to observe that. I don't love God, and my life has been better since I left God, since I left a God belief. So He's not
Same
blessing.
here. My life got way better.
Yeah, your claim that you just made is demonstrably false. My quality of life is better.
My blessings increased after I deconverted.
My cup overfloweth.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm not joking. I seriously mean it. My life got better after I deconverted. No joke. That is the honest truth.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Theo. You're going to ask us, how do we know something?
Sure. Well, how do you know that it's better? Like, how do you know it's better?
That my life is better?
Like,
then when how do I know? How do I know that my life is better since I left religion, when the religion was the source of my suicidality? It was suppressing the queer side of my sexual orientation. It was making me feel trapped. It was preventing me from having good relationships with people. It was making my financial priorities absolute nonsense. Are you asking a person how they can know whether or not the quality of their life is better? Because I'm happier, Theo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and same for me across the board there. My life got better because I started making better financial decisions. I started making genuine friends and not friends that were obligated to be my friends because we're the same religion. I got a career. I got a pension. I met a beautiful, loving wife. All around better.
And I got to touch my actual G-spot, which I wasn't allowed to do. So go on, Theo. What's your next question? And then we'll probably start asking you some questions, because it's just a wild thing you've come in on.
Sure. Yeah, like I would just say that like it's best for like you and me to do all things, right, for the glory of God.
But we don't.
Right? You know, He is, and like the question of like, well, what is the better life, right? It's like, okay, well, is it like comfort? Is it like finances?
It's reality.
Or is it
the best life is reality?
To store up to the eternal.
It's
right?
reality.
Like storing up treasures in heaven.
No.
Well, what is the true nature?
We're gonna do
reality?
ice cream. We're gonna do bowls of ice cream again, because you just threw in a new one. All right, I have some ice cream bowls for you to choose from. Vanilla, and I'm gonna show you the vanilla bowl of ice cream. You pretend it's in my hand. Actually, there. Chocolate, pretend it's actually there. And then I'm going to say an ice cream made of pure gold worth $1 billion. But you'll notice that this time the hand is completely empty, and I'm only asserting that ice cream is a choice, but you won't actually get to taste the ice cream unless you just trust me, bro. After you die, you're going to get the ice cream. But in the meantime, if you want that ice cream, it's not just a matter of choosing it. There's a lot I'm going to want out of you in the meantime. So you just presented these choices you don't even know are actual choices we have, which is the better life, the life of comfort. By the way, that's acting like that's the reality version. Comfort is probably the main reason religion exists. Comfort in the form of denial. So that's a fucking weird thing that you were using as the dichotomy as the opposite. The best life is the one that exists in reality. Probably. I mean, there are definitely people who've had such adverse lives that if you're telling me that they have to stay Christian, but they won't be tortured every day, fine. Now, if you tell me they have to stay Christian or they won't, or they will be tortured every day for all of eternity after they die, now I'm going to need you to prove it. every day in life you could prove, but afterwards you couldn't. Anyway, this is sort of going off of the. I guess my last point is you started by saying you hope we're blessed. I have a question, Theo. Do you hope our channel continues to grow and we continue to help more people find their way out of religion, especially Christianity, or do you hope that we find that things happen to where less people leave Christianity?
Well, I hope that you repent and accept Christ.
No. That's not what I asked. That's not what I asked. That's not what I asked. Answer the question I asked. I didn't ask whether you hope I repent. The two choices: the channel does better and we help more people leave Christianity, or the channel does worse and less people leave Christianity. Which one would you prefer?
Well, with regards to my worldview,
which one would you prefer?
Well, let me.
No, it's not a trick question. Which of the two would you prefer? A, more people leave Christianity because the channel does better. B, less people leave Christianity because the channel does worse.
Well, I hold to perseverance of the saints. Right, God has elected
A
before the foundation of the world.
A or B.
A or B.
This is literally A or not A. You only have two possible choices with this question.
Which one is it? Which would you prefer? Do you need them repeated for you again, Theo?
I don't think it would.
Theo,
we cannot overcome God.
Theo,
to me, it's irrelevant.
Theo, when did I ask if we can overcome God? All I have asked is, for you, which do you prefer happens? Which do you wish would happen? More people leave Christianity because this channel does better, or less people leave Christianity because this channel does worse? What is your preference? What is your wish? Not what will happen. I'm not asking you to make a prophecy. What is your wish? A, more people leave. B, less people leave. The next words out of your mouth need to not be words, but letters. And just one. A or B?
I would say less. Less
B?
because...
So B, correct?
And I wouldn't...
So B, correct?
Sure.
Great. We've established that you weren't telling the truth when you started the call, and that you hoped that we would continue to be blessed, because that would be antithetical to what you said and the thing that then followed. Now let's move on. Theo, without any dishonest condescension and saying things like, I hope that you repent, or I hope blah, 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 blah. We don't care about we don't care about any of that. What?
No, I genuinely hope that for you.
I don't care what you hope.
And
Theo, I hope that you stop believing in Santa Claus, but apparently you can't. So Theo, why do you believe you? Yes, I understand you don't literally believe in Santa. Oh my God. Theo, why do you believe in God?
He's drawn a comparison between Santa and God.
Sure.
It was a thing.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Great. I hope you answer it.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's because without the Christian God, we couldn't know anything to be the case.
And how do you know that?
Would you?
No. Don't move forward. How do you know that without the Christian God, we couldn't know anything? Because not only have you just made an assertion about knowledge, you've also made it exclusive to the Christian God. So now not only would you have to defend that we need any God, you would have to defend that a different God wouldn't suffice if a God is necessary. But let's start with any God existing, because I think that you worded it so poorly only by accident. So why is any God necessary for knowledge?
I wouldn't say any God. No, only the Christian God.
I know you wouldn't say any God. I already pointed that out. If you had just listened to me, I said we would start with the concept of any God and then isolate to Christianity, and I was very charitably saying that I think you worded it to specifically the Christian God by accident, because that would be a stupid thing to do. And now you've just, instead of answering the question, gone, I would like to specify that I actually was doing the stupid thing.
It wasn't by accident, and it's not.
Yeah,
stupid.
Apparently. Yes, it is a
right
stupid thing. Okay, I'll show you, Theo. Theo, I'll show you. Theo, I believe in a God which only function was to create the universe and give humans the ability for knowledge. It's not the Christian God, though. Boom, I just invented a God that's capable of doing what you just said only the Christian God could do. You are wrong.
Okay, so
now why do you believe in the Christian God?
Wait, so what you invented the God, right? So what is the properties and attributes of this Christian, not this Christian,
I don't have to
of this
justify
God that is sufficient.
Mysterious.
That is
It's a mysterious God. It's a mysterious
I'll
God
say-
that doesn't want us to know the properties.
It has a property sufficient to explain our universe.
No, I'm not serious, Theo. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in that God. I was pointing out that your assertion that only a Christian God could do it was wrong. And then I demonstrated why it was wrong. So, Theo, let's rewind. Why do you believe I would go completely away from the knowledge one if I was you, buddy? Because you've already lost on that one. Do you have a second one, or is that what everything pins on? Why do you believe in either a God, or if you want to specifically do the Christian God, we can?
I mean, yeah, like there's all sorts of things, but I guess something that I would like to ask is, so would you affirm that there are things that are actually good, like that are
relative to what humans have identified good and bad? So now that I've answered your question, we'll go back to the way this show works, where I'm the host and you're not, and I ask you a question and you answer it. Why do you believe in a God?
Yeah. So without the Christian God, you wouldn't be able to know anything. So
we already explained that doesn't work. We've already explained that doesn't work. We've already explained why that doesn't work. Without the Christian God, no, you couldn't have knowledge. We've already explained that you could invent any God to fill that, but actually you haven't asserted. So let's go with a God. I won't use any because I know how you're going to get pedantic if I do. What about knowledge requires a God, in your case, the Christian God, for knowledge to be obtainable?
Sure. So let's agree on the terms. So
what about knowledge requires a God to be obtainable? We don't need to do any exercises. You don't need to do any. Let's agree with just to tell me the answer to what about God what about knowledge requires a God?
Okay. So knowledge, so epistemology would require ontology. Do you agree with that?
I am not doing a single other do I agree with shit. You are just going to describe why a God is required for knowledge.
Because essentially, there is an environment, right? There is a ground of all being, and like Kant talks about the phenomena and the noumena, right? So the phenomena is the perceived, the noumena is the actual, and you need to have access to the noumena, the actual, in order to possess knowledge, right? Do you agree with this?
I am not doing a single more do I agree with this. I am familiar with shallow Christian apologetic word games, and I'm going to tell you that this isn't going to go well for you either if you'd like to continue down the path. You've already shown that you are a fraud when it comes to talking about knowledge in the very first place. We've already demonstrated to you this on the prospect of the Christian one. Are you sure this is the way you want to go? Continue. If you're going to keep going to the can we agree on, we're not doing that. You're just answering the question.
All right, what's the question?
Why? Oh my God.
Why is a God
no, it's okay.
necessary
Theo,
for knowledge?
Theo, call back when you're ready to actually engage. Because if you don't know the question, because you can't fundamentally listen. What is he saying? I'm what?
I said you're running away. You didn't answer my question.
You're already a fraud. You're acting like I'm fighting a 9-year-old girl, and when I turn my back and go, there's no point, wait till she gets older and trains up some, I'm running away from the 9-year-old girl. You're very scary. I don't get what you think. You're gonna try and talk over me while I have full control? You're gone. I'm running away from a 9-year-old fucking, I don't know, how heavy are 9-year-old girls? I'm going to say 40 pounds, but I have no fucking clue. I don't have a point of reference for this. I'm running around by the way, it's not even important that it's a girl. We'll just go with a 9-year-old. I'm running away from a 9-year-old who already said the stupid thing about it has to be the Christian God specifically. When you can literally invent any God to do it. And then is trying to walk us back toward, because I've done this for a million years now. I'm just kidding. That's how long Matt's done it, not me. I'm not old enough to do it for a million years, but Matt is. I know when someone's trying to walk me back to presuppositionalism, which wasn't gonna go good for you. I know when the brain in the vat shit is coming. It's not my first fucking day. Did you have anything? I'm sorry that I keep not letting you have these deep combos with these fucking shallow things. I just want one honest person, one honest theist to call.
They may have been going the route of presuppositionalism. I mean, they were throwing out philosophy terms there, trying to get into that as a response to the question, why is a God necessary for knowledge? And that is the presup. The whole strategy of presup is to basically knock the legs out from under unbelievers, saying that your presuppositions, your worldview, it doesn't ground your knowledge, doesn't ground your ability to come to knowledge, and therefore you have no legs to even stand on for argumentation. That's generally the goal there.
I won't even go with May. I'd bet such money that whether or not they knew they were going presuppositionalism, because they were just a Diet Coke version of like fucking William Coke Zero, not Coke Zero. What was New Coke? That was New Coke.
New Coke.
Craig, William Lane Craig. Look how significant my jaw looks from my profile right now. This is the beauty of a beard. I don't actually have a chin. If I don't have a beard, it just looks like there's a mouth in the middle of my neck. And I caught wind of it. And I was like,
my chin's fine. I just can't grow a beard.
See, I've wanted a beard my whole life because I always look like Beaker otherwise. Is that what his name is?
Beaker, yeah.
I don't need someone to slow walk me to presuppositionalism.
Whenever I hear arguments like this, like when you want to get into like the deep philosophy and try to pin down one set of presuppositions as required or not, like why is this required? Why was this not like for the 1900 years between Jesus' death and when this type of philosophy was discovered or invented? Yeah. Why wasn't that necessary then to convert people?
I've brought up the same point before.
If this is required to believe, then that means that for 1900 years, people were believing for bad reasons because they did not have this necessary component of, So it's like, why is a God necessary for knowledge? It should be hopefully an easy question to answer. I can answer why a cake requires a baker. I can answer why a building requires a builder. Why does knowledge require a God?
But again, if you then go into space and find cake, I'm going to demand you show me the baker. Because for all I know, there are natural cakes out in the universe. Like I said with the natural ice cream. I don't know what the fuck's out there. Yeah. I don't know what's possible. We know that within the universe it's possible through, I don't know what the fuck, things can do. So this is why I liked the ice cream example earlier. Because a lot of people go, but we know ice cream comes from a creator. No, you don't. You know that ice cream has come from creators. And that with large confidence, if you find ice cream, there's probably a creator for it. But if I ask you for proof of that ice cream creator, you don't give me the ice cream. You give me the creator. That's the fucking thing. What other thing do we believe in that we can't do that for? What ice cream do you believe in that you can't observe at least a ice cream creator? The universe is vast. Perhaps there are many God creators. I don't know. Obviously people believe in their special one, my special guy, but if I ask for proof of the ice cream creator, you have to show me the creator, not just hand me back the ice cream. And by the way, this has been a problem throughout history as people have claimed to be the creators and it turned out to be a different creator. So even if you wanted to say, I did it, I found the ice cream, basically these deistic propositions that don't actually work, but sometimes to be charitable, I will say, all right, for the sake of argument, I will grant you it. Now why the Christian God? That's where things get even more interesting because now we've said, fine, for the sake of argument, you prove to me that this ice cream needed an ice cream maker. You did it. Which person made the ice cream? Because in real life, people lie about inventing shit all the time. Y'all are using technology that you think Thomas Edison started. You cucks. Anyway, Jace in New Zealand.
If we ever discover,
go ahead.
If we ever discover an ice cream planet, Jimmy, you'll be hailed as a prophet.
I am an oracle. I've said this many times. Jace, pronouns he, him in New Zealand, one of my favorite places. And so therefore I just have high hopes that you're not about to just be the same guy from earlier saying random crap and screaming into the mic. Jace in New Zealand, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Jimmy, Eric, how are you guys?
Doing all right. I want to tell you, just looking at your notes here, we're going to probably do a little bit of being a little cautious because the topic of sort of mental health is probably going to come into it based on what we're seeing here. So we're going to be cautious. And there may be a point where I like to preface this sometimes because it's more uncomfortable when it shows up later, that if there becomes a point where I feel that we as non-therapists, psychologists, neuroscientists would be irresponsible to continue on, we'll politely say, hey, Jace, we're going to move on. But now with that all said, if you'll go ahead and present what you have to present us, we got it going on.
Yeah, sure. So before I get started, just be aware that, I understand the attribution of causality and the bias that can be associated with this on both sides of the coin. But I was basically in China teaching English, and I jumped into a fight.
Jace, can we move away from the parrot that's being murdered?
Oh, can you hear the parrot? Hold on.
He's screaming bloody murder.
Someone in the live chat called me a bully. How does one bully for a show where a person elects to call them and has the ability to hang up at any moment, at any time? We don't have the actual information of the people. I can't send you after the people. I can't group bully them. All I can do is share my thoughts on my platform. I wonder how that's supposed to work. Sorry, go ahead, Jace.
Okay, that was Noah the macaw trying to get a bit vocal.
Oh, yeah. No worries. I almost called the police. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Jace.
So basically, I was in China and I jumped into a fight just to break it up, and I ended up in hospital with a subarachnoid brain hemorrhage.
Ouch.
Being told to get my affairs in order, being told that the prospect wasn't good.
Sure.
And from that, I was in there in the second week that I was in there. I had an encounter with Christ. And with that encounter, I'm not going to go into details because it is a testimony.
Yeah, and so real quick, what I wanted to say is to be a little bit pedantic. Did you have an experience with Christ, or do you believe you had an experience with Christ? Because these are two different things. Do you have an experience which you attribute to being with Christ?
Okay, so I would believe that I had an experience that attributed that it was Christ. Yeah.
Cool. No worries.
Yeah. So basically, what happened was I had this encounter, and I ended up walking out of that hospital 24 hours later when I could, because they weren't going to let me go. But the reality is that it wasn't until I came to the end of myself and realized what had happened that I had that encounter, and I walked out of there. And that was 20 years ago that happened. Sure. And I had the medical profession. It was funny running after me down the hallway, telling me I wasn't going anywhere, but I knew something had happened, and I've never looked back since.
Sure. So to review it with you, Jace, this is the story that I have. At 20 years ago, did you say it was in a fight?
Yeah, it was in a fight. I jumped into a fight. Yeah.
Sure. So
got attacked
and got a bad enough head injury that it resulted in a brain hemorrhage. That brain hemorrhage was real bad. Took you offline, basically. Made it look like you were going to be dying at some point during
that's what the CT scan.
Sure. During at some point during this experience, you had an experience that you believe was an experience of you and Christ together. And that experience you also now attribute to why you were evidently spontaneously healed from something that had a negative outlook, and that experience is the proof for you that Jesus exists, essentially, yeah?
Yeah, so that
Okay.
is the proof. Yeah, that is something that
Sure.
happened, and
So Jace,
I've looked at other avenues as well.
Jace, let me give you this. Let me ask you this. Let me give you a proposition B. Somebody goes to Pakistan, it's not Stan, Pakistan, and is a person who comes from a place that already promotes Islam, goes to Pakistan, gets in a fight,
Yes.
gets injured, goes to the hospital, is told that he is going to die, and within a couple of days, he ends up praying, even though he had never prayed before, but he had a general idea of how to pray facing Mecca and how to pray to the Muslim God. And he's praying to the Muslim God with this general idea, and at one point, he gets this overwhelming feeling of warmth. And that night, that person is told, we just looked at your scans and your blood work, you're fine. We don't know what happened. We've never seen a remission like this. You are fine. And we can have you go home in a day or two. That story, Jace, if that had happened to you, would you say that that's adequate proof that Islam is true?
No, I would say that that's proof that something happened outside of the norm. Something happened outside of.
I'm glad you said that, Jace,
natural laws for that to happen.
because I actually didn't make up that story. I know a person with that exact story. And so I'm sitting here and I'm going, Jace, this is why you believe Christianity is true. And this is why my friend, I keep almost saying his name, I'm not going to. This is why my friend thinks that Islam is true. And he feels that warm feeling he had was 100% from Allah. And that it was related to his prayers. He had a lot of imagery in his head and stuff. And so he has sat there and had almost an identical experience to you. There's some slight differences, the amount of time it took to recover and all that stuff. I tried to make sure I shared those, but ultimately the exact same experience. And you've sat and you've gone, Jesus Christ, I believe in Jesus because of this. He goes, I believe in Allah. I now accept the Quran. I'm a faithful Muslim because of this. And I'm Jimmy Snow. I used to be a Mormon. I realized I didn't have good enough reasons. I used to be a Christian. Realized I didn't have good enough reasons. Used to be a deist. Realized I didn't have good enough reasons. And now I'm sitting and going, I want to know whatever the truth is. So I've got Jace, who I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt isn't lying, even though that is a much more natural occurring likely scenario as far as things than a supernatural explanation. But I'm going to go ahead and say that from Jace's perspective, everything he just said is what happened, even though I might disagree whether or not that was literally Jesus Christ or not. That's the only thing that I would say is up in the air. My friend, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's only recalling actual things that actually happened. What should I do, Jace, as a person who's aware of both of your stories to determine if both of you are wrong, one of you is right, or you're both liars? Or any other potential realistic option. You could also both be delusional. What should I do as far as accepting that or not? And Jace, by the way, if you're calling to say, I'm not asking you to believe on this, I'm asking you whether or not you think if you went through that experience and were me, whether or not you'd believe. If that's actually what your question is, then I'm sorry for all of that preamble, and for sure we can answer that. But if what my question is to you makes sense, I'd love to hear your response.
Yeah, so the scenario that you gave may well have happened. It's not for me to question why that man was healed or why he wasn't healed. The fact is, something happened.
Sure.
And
spontaneous remission is actually a very common thing. There are lots of things that happen that we go, this is not something that we understand usually can be healed. There are limitations. Jace, I would be 1,000% more impressed if you had went in and they chopped off your leg and the next day there was a leg again. But instead it was this
Oh,
thing
yes.
like a blood clot in your brain, and our fundamental still not understanding how to stop that from killing people, even though it should be stoppable. But the fact that brain hemorrhages literally have been recovered from, and that this isn't a unique thing. So, you know, there's a whole Tim Minchin song that's coming to mind as you're mentioning this. So I agree. Something we don't really get happened. Is that where we're saying you and I both agree? We don't really know why your brain hemorrhage that the expert said will be the end of you wasn't the end of you, right?
Right. On a medical point of view, yep.
Right. But does that mean that there isn't a medical explanation, or that the people who you had your medical examinations by, that they can't explain it? And maybe no one can explain it right now, but would that mean that no medical explanation does now or would ever exist?
What it basically means that in the future, there may be a plausible explanation for what's happened.
Yeah.
Absolutely, there would be.
Yeah.
I can't, if Allah had come to me, if some other God had come to me and that had happened, then I would be in that place now of believing in them.
Yeah, and
but the fact of
Jace,
the matter
real quick, I was just saying that's why I'm not impressed that it was Jesus, because you were raised by you were healed and saved by the version of the God that you would have been most exposed to culturally. This is just like when people have near-death experiences. They have them according to where they live, regardless of if they hold the belief in that or not. I also don't know what your relationship to that religion was before 20 years ago. But I'm going to let Eric take it over. But the point of my question, why I was having you answer, was I'm so interested to know why, when you acknowledge that a natural explanation may come in the future, that you would sit there and go, and I suspect that my belief is more likely of this supernatural explanation than what we know happens all the time in expanding medical knowledge. It might exist already, by the way. In 20 years, it probably does exist, but nobody knows to attach it to your specific thing because they're not live observing it. So that's just my point. But Eric, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Jace, I got a couple questions. Well, I got two sets of questions. This first one's not to be insulting. It's just to illustrate my point here. So we went over visions or hallucinations, or what do you want to call them, with Christ, with Allah. Lots of other religions can have them as well. And you mentioned that if you had saw Allah in your vision, you would be a follower of Allah. What if, and I'm not saying this to be insulting, asking this legitimately, what if it was a rainbow unicorn in your vision? Would you be following some rainbow unicorn god?
If the rainbow unicorn was truth, then absolutely, yeah.
Well,
I would.
Truth. We don't know if Allah is truth. We don't know if Jesus is truth. We're just going just solely off of your vision. If there was a rainbow unicorn in your vision, would you even an inch get closer to a rainbow unicorn god, or would you sit back and say, you know what, that was crazy? Like I had a not sorry, crazy is the wrong word to use. That's very insensitive. I had a traumatic brain injury. My brain was going haywire. I was seeing things, and I saw a rainbow unicorn, and I'm not going to put any stock in that because I had a traumatic brain injury. Wouldn't that be closer to what you'd be saying?
Yeah. So if that happened, then obviously I'm going to question it in the fact of, well, you know, something. I've had a brain injury anyway, and you know, this could be, I could be seeing this because of my brain injury. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. So my follow-up question
what
to
I'm trying to say, it doesn't negate the fact that there was an outcome to this, which was which was unexplainable.
All right.
At this point.
So let me follow up a question here. If we happen to live in a culture where rainbow unicorns were accepted as some type of god figure, and then you had a rainbow unicorn vision, would that make you more inclined to believe it? What I'm saying is, did society prime you? Did the culture you grew up in and the people you grew up around, could that have perhaps primed you to have a vision of Jesus and to more readily accept it as true?
That is a possibility. That is absolutely a possibility, that if I've been exposed to that, which I was exposed to that prior to that, to some degree.
That's probably why.
Absolutely the case.
That's a natural explanation why we have so many visions.
bearing in mind, Eric, that a lot of people, when they're facing death, they will cry out to a God.
Absolutely, out of fear.
That is not something that I did inherently. I had accepted the fact that, hey, if this is it for me, then I'm okay with that.
That's fine too. Yeah, you may have not cried out to a God and still had some type of vision because your brain generated it.
Yeah, Jace,
so really quick, I got three more questions here. Two are very quick, fast, rapid fire, yes, no questions, and let's try to keep it just a yes and no. And then the third one will be an elaboration. I'll let you talk all you want after the third question. Okay. For the first question, can doctors give you a grim prognosis and be wrong, and you walk out of there alive?
Absolutely.
Is it possible? Okay, so that's the first one.
Absolutely.
The second one is, can people who have experiences after a traumatic brain injury, can those experiences simply be attributed to the traumatic brain injury, just a product of a mind that is damaged and malfunctioning, and not be attributed to a God? Is that possible?
That is possible as well, yeah.
Okay, great. Awesome. I appreciate these two straightforward answers. Thank you so much. And here's my third question, and then you can elaborate all you want. How do you know that you do not fall under both those categories?
Okay, so I really don't. I really don't know that I may or may not fall under those two categories.
I'll add a question unless. You've already got it.
I guess I'm very grateful for the straightforward and honest answer, because lots of people kind of dance around that. So I really appreciate the straightforwardness there. I guess my last question, my fourth question, now that you've just generated for me, is how would we go about determining whether you were under both of those categories or not? The doctors misdiagnosed you and you walked out of there alive, because we know that happens, and that this experience was just a product of your traumatized mind. How would we go about figuring that out?
Well, that's the thing. We can't figure that out. I believe that a lot of it is.
Can we at least
unexplainable? We can't explain.
Can we at least work off of probabilities?
My guys, sorry.
Can we? I'm not saying we reach full 100% confidence in one or the other, but can we start dealing with probabilities and asking ourselves, how many people do we know that have traumatic brain injuries and see things, whether it be Jesus, Jehovah, Allah, rainbow unicorns? What's the probabilities of those things just simply being just natural occurrences in the brain that's been traumatized? How many times? We know it's at least once, right? Somebody's had a crazy vision that they came out of it and said, "Hey, that was a crazy hallucination I just had." I've had hallucinations, right? So we have at least one confirmed case of that. We have 0 confirmed cases of a God. So if you're just going off of just pure probabilities, which direction should you lean? Not 100% confidence, but just which direction should you lean? Is this a natural occurrence, or is this actually some message from God?
Well, the probability of that is going to be based on somebody's presupposition, on someone's bias, right?
I wouldn't even say that. No,
that's where they're going to lean.
We have lots of reports and cases of hallucinations that people come out and say that was a hallucination. That was my brain just going haywire, right?
Yeah.
Whereas how many confirmed cases
do have hallucinations? Yeah.
Right. We can actually invoke them in the lab. We can actually, I'm not sure how doctors do it, but drugs, you can do electrical impulses, you can do visual and audio stimulations to invoke hallucinations.
And
we don't need
just on a
God
Friday
to
night.
explain
You don't have
these
to go
things.
to a lab at all.
Yeah, exactly. Depends on what you're drinking and the order you're drinking it in. But we know we can invoke these things in our brain. We do it all the time, right? So we have lots and lots and lots of natural cases, natural explanations for these phenomena. How many confirmed cases of a God do we have causing these phenomena?
Yeah, well, when you look at it like that, obviously there's a lot of faith involved on both sides of the coin. We have faith to not believe in God, and we have to have faith to believe in God.
Jace, no. Jace, you do not
have evidence
need
on my
any
side.
faith to believe to not believe in God. Not even to believe there is no God. But you said you need faith on both sides to believe there is and there isn't. Faith has a meaning. And when you're using it in a religious context, faith is the belief in things for which you don't have evidence, but you have great hope based on spiritual apprehension. That's what faith is. There is no spiritual element to atheism. You do not need any faith. And if you're going to use just faith to mean confidence, that's called an equivocation fallacy. It's one of Christians' favorite things to do. It's really annoying. You do not need any faith to not believe in a God.
Yeah, I would say more on the lines of, let's look at faith in everyday life outside of religion.
There's no such thing as faith in a religious context. There is no such thing as faith outside of religion. When we're talking about faith in religion, well, this was the point I was making about equivocation. Faith does not just mean confidence. So if you're saying I have faith in doctors, that is not what religious faith is. Your faith in God and my quote unquote faith in doctors are not even comparable. And it's actually why I avoid using the term. It is not simple confidence. So if you would like, go ahead, give us an example of a day-to-day thing in life that utilizes faith but is non-religious.
Okay, so I would say when you're sitting on a chair, the dining table, you've sat on that chair numerous times, okay? Well, the reality is that, unconsciously you sit on that chair, you have faith to know that chair is going to hold you.
False.
It's not going to collapse under your weight.
Faith is not confidence. No. You just described literally something that has been empirically confirmed. You have tested it your very self. You said you've sat on it many times. This is why we sometimes test chairs, or we look at chairs to see if they look structurally sound, or we see a chair that looks funny and ask if it even is a chair. We also have lots of references, real life empirical evidence for what a chair is and what a chair that can support you and isn't. I do not have some religious belief where I go, the Lord is telling me in my heart through a burning in the bosom, through an apprehension of the Holy Spirit. I do not have any type of, I hope this without actual evidence that the chair will hold. And by the way, if anything, you're actually pointing out an example of where that stuff still gets flawed when it comes to confidence and stuff, because sometimes we have confidence that a chair won't break, and then it breaks because we actually didn't do enough observation. We didn't do enough investigation. We didn't acknowledge the fact that I am not the size of person that should be sitting in a child's patio chair. I just thought there's a chair-shaped thing, so I'm going to go at it. But had I actually utilized natural processes, empirical processes of testing, observation, all of that sort of, I actually would have prevented myself from being humiliated at no particular barbecue 2 4th of Julys ago. That is the opposite of faith. But we use the term faith
about evidence.
Faith has zero evidence related to it. Faith in the religious context is, do you read the Bible, Jace?
Yeah, sure. Faith is the evidence of things not seen. That's what the Bible says.
Yeah, Hebrews 11. And it's doesn't literally just mean belief in things that you physically can't see. It's talking about things for which you don't have empirical proof, that you don't have beyond empirical proof, but that you don't have real evidence for. It's not just saying, because then you could just say, well, I believe in germs, therefore I have faith in germs because they're too small for me to see. Infrared light, I don't see that, therefore I have faith in infrared light. The actual context of that scripture is, it is the apprehension through religious means, through spiritual means, of truth that hasn't actually been revealed, that isn't testable, that isn't, it's exclusive private truth that seems to match all of the culture around you. And this is why we were bringing up, even whether or not you were religious before, it doesn't matter. You aren't rational when you think you're going to die. So Jace, actually, I've told this story on here before. Last November, I got really bad bronchitis, really, really bad. Like they said, if I hadn't come in when I came in, my things may have gone real dire. And I woke up one night choking on basically just my own throat. And I was trying to cough, but I couldn't really cough and I couldn't breathe. Now, when you wake up to that, it feels much longer than it was. It was probably 15 seconds, but it felt like I was going to die. And the thought in my head wasn't a rational thought. It wasn't God. It wasn't anything. It was, oh no, I'm going to die and my dog is locked in my room with me. I hope it eats me instead of dying itself. That's not a rational thought. In fact, that's a bad thought, because had it eaten me and then been found, they would have put him down. They don't let dogs that eat people stay alive, or cats. It's an automatic, you get put down if the animal starts to eat the person. So Eric presented you with, and this was sort of the point of the exercise at the beginning when I was telling you about my friend, lots of these examples happen. And you even didn't believe that the almost exact same thing happening to my friend was a testament of Islam. But you've sat here and gone, the most likely explanation is that this Jesus for realsies exists. And we just want to know, when you have so many more examples of it not being a religious thing that is behind these, when there's so many more examples of it being truly unexplained, why you kept using the word unexplained and gone, it's unexplained. Now here's my answer for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so many. You keep saying so many examples for the fact that it was not God. And
Jace, I can hook you up with thousands of examples of near death
for not God either.
There's no such thing as evidence for what things aren't. Jace, how Eric introduced you to a rainbow unicorn earlier. What's your evidence that it wasn't a rainbow unicorn that you never even thought of? There's no such thing as evidence for what's not. And you're talking about proving unfalsifiable things as well as negative things. If your claim is...
So we can't prove this is not God.
Correct. There's no way to prove that there are no gods anywhere. There's also no good reason to believe there are.
This is touching upon falsifiability.
So that basically, what that means is that the whole the whole foundation of which we try and prove the existence of God or not God could be totally flawed from the get-go anyway.
If God exists, could prove he exists. Christians and other religions have special pled themselves into an unfalsifiable God and claimed that it's his mysterious ways. So the fact is that you believe in a God which is undetectable if he doesn't want to be detected, and you believe he doesn't want to be detected. So you believe in a God who can't be proven true because he doesn't want to be, and yet you still believe in him because he can't believe in be true or false. And these aren't equal footings, Jace. Again, talking about the rainbow unicorn, you can't prove there is no rainbow unicorn. That doesn't mean that is just as likely or just as acceptable as believing there is, that believing there is equal to believing there isn't. If somebody makes the claim there is, they have the burden of proof. I will take the burden of proof, if you like, for the Christian God not existing, because we know how much fraud has been involved with crafting him, and that it is simply the most reasonable conclusion, with how many fraudulent things are in the Bible and in the story of Jesus. The most reasonable conclusion is that this is a fabrication of men who wanted power. But I can't actually prove to you that there isn't some way he exists between all of those gaps, because again, they've special pled themselves into a magic God who, if he doesn't want to be, maybe he wants you to not believe in him and then come to him anyway. That's literally like half of Christianity, that you're supposed to believe with how bad the evidence is. So there's no good reason to believe your near-death experience more than my friend and more than the thousands of other people. There's subreddits of people telling your exact story hundreds of times a week.
So you were talking about the gospel and fabrications, but there's just as much evidence to support that those were very real events and those things did occur.
No, there isn't. Adam and Eve.
Have you gone through?
Adam and Eve has been objectively debunked. There was no Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve have been objectively debunked. It is impossible that Adam and Eve existed and were the first two Homo sapiens from which all Homo sapiens branch off. The global flood has been objectively debunked. It is impossible that in the last 10,000, 100,000, or even many millions of years, and it might be up to billions, that there was a global flood. It is impossible. The story of Moses and the exodus of the Jews, the types of Jews that story is about, didn't actually exist for several hundred more years. That is basically one of the first attempts to demonize black people. Sodom and Gomorrah. There is zero evidence of Sodom and Gomorrah ever happening. So you have multiple examples of there's no evidence of, and then you have examples of things that we know did not happen objectively. The story of David, King David, probably an actual historical figure. However, some of the things attributed to King David have already been discovered to actually be parts of other people's stories, and that he basically was made up to be this amazing figure more than he actually is. King David is actually probably the first historically person that you can, with some confidence, say probably existed historically. Everybody prior to him is likely fantasy people. Jesus Christ hasn't met the burden of proof. I'm not a mythicist. I don't say he didn't exist, but I definitely don't say he did exist. There hasn't been a burden of proof met for him in his existence. So I don't know what you mean when you say there's just as much evidence for that these things did happen, when in fact the opposite is true. There is evidence that they not only didn't happen, but are impossible, to the point that the biggest Christian organization in the world accept that.
Hello?
Hello?
Jimmy?
Yep.
Jimmy?
I hear you.
Hello?
I hear you, Jace. I hear you fine.
We're here.
Yeah, okay. We had a lag from my end. Is it possible that you could be enforcing your own bias?
No.
With
no,
what you're saying?
With the global flood, no. My bias didn't. First of all, I used to be religious, Jace. If there was scientific evidence that the global flood happened, I still would be. The reason I left Christianity was because I was trying to prove it was true and discovered it was false. And I had the bias to embrace things that weren't good enough evidence until it started to fall apart and couldn't survive observation. So no, it is a justified, verifiable, repeatable, peer-reviewed to the ends of the earth fact that Noah's global flood didn't happen, to the point that the biggest Christian organization on the planet, the Catholic Church, accepts that it didn't happen. It is a verified fact that Adam and Eve were not the first two Homo sapiens, to the point that that same Christian organization accept that they did not, that is just a story of metaphor is what they go with, that it's a story for the sake of a religious story, a fable. Same thing with Moses. You have giant organizations who are trying to be compatible with science, basically going, we're going to now say that these books that in their original form were clearly written in the context of that this was the real history of the planet, were wrong about that, and somehow they just got mixed up with actual made-up stories.
Okay, so you think the story of Christ didn't happen?
It's not about think.
You think none of that?
I have no reason to believe that the story of Christ happened.
I'll be a little more generous than that.
Derek?
I'll be a little bit more generous than that. I will say that I don't think that the story of Christ happened the way it was written in the Bible.
Yeah, that's easy enough to say. But the actual, as far as the story of Christ, I don't have a good reason to believe it happened.
Yeah, I'm trying to meet him halfway on this. So
sure.
I will concede that a guy named Christ or Jesus existed, said and did some things, and it was executed for it. I know. I understand. I'll just, for the sake of argument, concede that Jesus existed. He said some things. He did some things. Pissed off the wrong people. Was executed for it. I'll grant all that. Okay?
But I won't.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. But the thing is, though, we don't have
resurrection.
We don't have contemporary corroboration of the details of those events. We don't have any of that we can rely on.
Yeah,
we can maybe safely assume that, hey, this might be based on a real guy who said some things, but all the magical stuff around it, we don't have any evidence for, other than the writings of the Gospels, which are copies of each other. And were written decades later in a different language, in a different country, after the fact, after 30, 40, 50 years of oral tradition. So I don't find those to be reliable stories.
So Jace, let's not focus though on what our...
I struggle. I also, to be fair, I struggle with the fact that as far as the New Testament goes, a lot of those books were written 50, 100, even some 150 years after the fact.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
I believe that there are
Paul's epistles are the closest at 20 to 30 years after the fact.
Yeah, and generally only about half of them are accepted to be genuine in the Bible. Yeah. So, hey, Jace, let's bring this back around one more time to your experience and the conclusions you're drawing from that experience. Let me ask you one more question, or maybe two more questions here. So, you had this experience. You experienced traumatic brain injury. You had an experience in the hospital. You had doctors give you a prognosis that turned out to be wrong, and you walked out of there. All right. And you attribute that to Christ, Jesus, or, God or the Bible. Let's say someone else had that same exact experience and they walked out of there and they attributed that experience to Allah using the same exact reasoning that you did, right? I, as an outsider, am looking at both of you and going, which one should I believe? Because you both can't be right, but you both can be wrong. What mechanism could I possibly have to determine what's the case? Can you give me something
is it
special? Yeah, go ahead.
A mechanism.
Go ahead.
Okay. My life after the fact, how I am now. Also the fact that when I did walk out of that hospital, that wasn't, I went from seriously being, told, on my deathbed and being told, this is it, this is the end, to a dramatic turnaround,
but we
within
covered
hours. After that encounter, the turnaround, even within hours after that encounter, was
Jace. Just earlier,
it was not explainable.
All right. So Jace, just earlier, you said that this does happen. People get better despite what the doctors think are going to happen. It just happens.
Miracle.
So and all those extra things you just added, I can add that to the story of the person who saw Allah, and now we're back to equal again. I have no way to determine who's right and who's wrong.
We actually did this 20 minutes ago. We're just looped.
Yeah.
But also you also just said it's not explainable, which you've also acknowledged that that's not true. You not having an explanation doesn't make something unexplainable. But then the thing that you started off with was your life sense. And I don't know what were you before this experience? Were you a Christian? Were you an atheist? Were you a different religion? What were you?
Before this experience, I had been going to church, prior to many years prior to that.
Okay.
Did I have a relationship with God? Did I think
Jace,
I did? That's debatable.
So now we've also left out, you've just been revealed a huge detail, because earlier when we were talking about it being something that could be culturally influenced, you didn't bring up the fact that you literally had the experience you would have been hearing about at church. That you were already at least going through the motions and you're hearing stories of people's revelations, and then you have your revelation moment and you ascribe it to that because it has some level of familiarity with this thing that you're already going to be hearing about in church. I had hoped at the very least you were going to say, yeah, I was a non-believer before that, because that makes the story slightly more interesting. But in this case, it didn't. Hang on.
Jace did admit that he was culturally primed.
I did admit,
right? Culturally primed.
Yes, I did.
Culturally primed. But that was
Jimmy. I did say prior that I had some influence with Christianity prior to that.
Sure. You didn't say you were going to church,
because
what I took from that, because I had already suggested it earlier, was that you lived in a part of the world where Christianity was present. Now, today, live under Christian influence. There is cultural Christian influence in my life. And so, to me, the story just got 100 times less interesting because you had the type of experience you would have been hearing people have in church. Just like the friend who I told you about who came to Islam, he was a non-believer, but he was surrounded by Islam. So he became a believer in defiance of what he thought he wanted. And so you basically at no point have you been a skeptic, because if you had been a skeptic, you would have gone.
I was.
No, you weren't. Skeptic doesn't just mean that you're ever skeptical. The concept of skepticism is the concept of being a skeptic, as far as like if you're going to take on the label, say philosophically you are a skeptic, is to not believe until that belief is warranted. Or as Matt likes to put it, valuing believing as many true things as possible and as few false things as possible. Just to say you are, it's like how fucking idiots use the phrase a vaccine skeptic. They are abusing that term. Skeptic is, again, I don't want to go over and do another lecture as we already did on the difference between a term in its philosophical or contextual sense and the colloquial way that people use it, because we already abused the hell out of the word faith earlier on that basis. Jace, I guess here now, 39 minutes on, I just have only heard from you what are frankly cliche answers that people use to justify every religious belief. Your near-death experience is not even the most interesting one I've ever heard or the most miraculous one I've ever heard. Some of the more miraculous ones that I heard in Mormonism were...
I didn't come to make it miraculous. I just came with an experience to let you guys know why I believe in the God that I do. I did leave the church.
But that wasn't the point of what we were talking about.
Very skeptical.
The reason why I was bringing up that it wasn't the most interesting is that it was yours is the thing you would expect to happen. Other people's stories I have are those ones where it's like, and here's why it would be so unlikely for both me to survive and me to come to this belief and because the people will, and I think most of the times they're just lying, but I indulge them as though they're not. So Jace, you have these reasons for believing that everyone has. Do you have anything unique that a person who is genuinely a skeptic, a person who is going to withhold belief in something until sufficient reason to believe is given? Do you have a single example of something like that? Because if it's just you had a near-death experience and your life changed a lot after, there is no religion you couldn't convert to without people who have that exact story. So what is something for a skeptic to go, not necessarily that we'd believe, but just go, ooh, that's a big one. Now I really have some research and some studying to do. That warrants investigation and verification because the implications are so significant.
So what I actually think, Jimmy, is that for the most part, for a lot of people, and probably yourself included, is, to have a personal encounter with God on a personal level.
But you don't know that you had a personal encounter with God. You've already acknowledged that. You believe you did, but you don't know that your experience is any different than other people who believed they did and didn't, who believe in other gods. So I'm asking you for an example of something that a skeptic could take on and go, okay, now we have something to investigate. Now we have something that a person can't come to every conclusion, every religion on. We've got something special. Do you have something special, or is the only reason you believe, is it only good enough for you personally, but it not warrant anyone else to believe? And the only reason that it is good enough for you personally is that your standard of evidence is much lower than a skeptic's.
My whole life is special, Jimmy, for the most part.
But in a way, it's not, because everybody's life is special, so no one's is.
Absolutely.
Here's another, Jace, here's another way to frame it.
Except, Jace, no. Hang on, Jace is just agreeing with a paradox. Jace, were you about to say absolutely everyone's life is special?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right, which means no one's is, correct?
Yeah.
I would not say that no one's is.
If everyone has the same quality, it's not special. You could say everyone's life
snowflake is unique. Doesn't mean they're special.
But actually, you know what? Their lives aren't even that unique. We can predict a lot about people and what they will do if you just move out to demographic levels, and people are becoming less and less complex all the time. But anyway, we'll leave the pedantry of
human
if
behavior.
You think that all life is
human behavior is pretty universal across the board.
Yeah, it usually takes a lot to break out of it, like severe brain injuries.
I agree.
So Jace, let's take one more. Jace,
the way I look at it is this: I'm not here to convince anybody, but I'm here to say, hey, this is what happened to me. And if
I'm going to let Eric finish with you, but I wish you would have said that at the beginning of the call.
On a profound level, would you believe?
I wish you'd have said that at the beginning of the call, that I do not have a good reason for anyone to believe but me. And then we would have only spent the time revealing that you actually don't have a good reason for you to believe, which you've all but agreed with that assertion. We wouldn't have spent so much time on the why do you believe in a way that anybody else should. I feel like you're actually just admitting that you've wasted our time here. But Eric, go ahead and finish up with Jace.
I actually don't have a very good reason not to believe.
Yes, you do.
I don't have a good reason not to.
Yes, you do. Yeah. Because the best reason not to believe is that no good reason has been given. That's the
It's
best
the same reason why you wouldn't believe in the rainbow unicorn.
It's
like
the
you
same
wouldn't believe in the
reason-
rainbow unicorn for certain reasons because we don't have evidence for it.
The list of things that you don't believe in is billions and trillions of times longer than the list of things that you do believe in. Infinite. And the reason why you shouldn't believe is the same reason you don't believe in that infinitely long other list.
Yeah. Hey, Jace, you don't have to answer this question, but Jace, before you leave, I'm going to ask you some questions rhetorically. You can take them away and ponder them on your own,
Yes.
if you wish. Just ask yourself, if the method that I'm using to determine that this is actually my God can work for any other God, it can bring me to other conclusions. The method I'm using can bring me to any number of conclusions. It just matters what culture I grew up in. It just matters what I was already primed to believe beforehand. If the method can lead you to multiple conclusions, it's an insufficient method for coming to the truth. So ask yourself, do I have a bad method? Do I have an incomplete method? What can I do about it? What can I add to it that will help me narrow it down to a single conclusion? And does that method still hold up to snuff? Ask yourself that as you think about this call a little bit later on. Ask yourself whether or not the method you're using can come up to a unique conclusion and it simply cannot be applied to any other God.
Last words, Jace.
I would have to ask you that as well, whether your method is also the case, that you could be barking.
What's my
You
method?
should, Jace, you should ask that, because that's the thing we're here advocating for. Our method is, our method results in only believing in things which warrant it. That's the whole point. That's the whole thing, is to not want to be, let me George W. Bush it. You fooled me once, you're not going to fool me again. We don't want to be fooled again, because we were fooled before. So we are relying on a method which reduces dramatically the rate of being fooled. I have entire confidence in my method because I can demonstrate its efficacy and how it is in line with all of the fucking things around us that we are now reliant on. My method is the same method that others use to give us the method or the ability for us to communicate from New Zealand to America and broadcast it live to now, I don't know what we're up to now. Last I checked, okay, we're above 1,900 people. And over the course of the next few weeks, that'll grow to somewhere between 50 and 60,000 is usually what it levels out at. Hell yeah, you should ask that. You should look at our method and go, what does their method result in? And what does mine result in? I'll tell you one of the things it's resulted in. There's a double holy war going on in Israel right now. That's one of the things.
Right.
Yeah.
If your method is used in that way, and we say that God is spirit, then how
God is what?
How do we know that even these methods that we're using are the right methods to be using to define whether a God who is spirit is real or not real? How can we?
Again,
Jimmy,
as a skeptic, wait, why are you going, how can we, Jimmy, like trying to rush me along, Jace? I'm literally responding to you.
Oh, it must be a bit of a lag. Carry on.
Yeah, maybe. The way we were
Probably
doing
is.
it was sort of, yeah, okay. I don't know. The tone of voice
I don't
was
think,
like,
I don't think
how are we
there's
going to do
anything
it?
else there.
How are we going to do it, Jimmy? Huh? How are we going to do it? How are we going to do it? I do not have a burden of proof that God exists. I do not assert that no gods exist. You and I both believe in some list of things. We don't believe in a much longer list of things. For everything but religion, I suspect, you don't bring something from the not believe to the believe column unless you have a good reason. Maybe not. I don't know what your political views are. Maybe you're a fucking nightmare. I don't know. But I don't move them from the not believe column to the believe column until they have been adequately proven using reliable methods. The reliability of those methods can be shown by repeated testing. In science, we use peer review. We talked about empiricism earlier. There's a lot of ways to do it.
I think peer review is flawed.
Oh my God. Of course peer review is flawed. People are involved. And you know how we know peer reviewed is flawed? Because more peer review happens and we discover the flaws. Peer review is so perfect because it takes care of what you're saying. This is what conspiracy theorists say. Peer reviewed is flawed. How do you know that? Because they discovered this thing that happened in peer review is wrong. How did they do it? By more peer review. It's a never-ending process. Science is flawed because people are involved, because humans are flawed. And you know what keeps revealing the flaws? More science. And so, Jace, you're now showing a different side to your belief, which is that you have been, since your experience, just absorbing cliche things so that you can sit here and go, peer-reviewed is flawed. Never use a smartphone again. You don't deserve it, because they wouldn't exist without peer review.
The reason why I
Never
think
drink pasteurized milk again
is because it comes from a specific gene pool, a specific pool of people, generally scientists, that are part of that.
Science is not a gene. Being a scientist is not a gene, but yes, there is culturally biased peer review. How did we discover that? By doing culturally unbiased peer review. So it's not the peer review that is actually flawed. It is the people conducting it. And the process of peer review, done adequately, filters that out. Stop listening to silly things that people say in church to get you to justify nonsensical beliefs while still benefiting from the fruits of labor of things like science, empiricism, all of that. Or stop drinking pasteurized milk because you don't deserve it. You don't have to resort to that. There are plenty of Christians who don't, even if you're going to stick with Christianity. Anyway, for real, this is your actual last words. I said that before. Please don't make it another argumentative point, just a goodbye of some type. If you want, you can say, one last declaration, but we're not going to argue back with it. So don't abuse that is all I'm saying. Go ahead.
Okay, so my final words really are just, our life is a journey, and it's a process of wanting absolute truth on matters. And, I like your channel.
Cool.
You do make most Christians look like absolute idiots.
Just most.
People may think I'm an idiot, and that's fine. I don't mind being an idiot if that's what people think.
I don't think you're an idiot, Jace. I think that you are.
My life's okay.
I think you're dogmatic, and I think that you have made special exceptions in your brain for something that you actually can't justify. I actually think you are smarter than your belief and smarter than the arguments that you've presented today. That's what I suspect. Personally,
and I agree with Jimmy on that one, Jace. Don't think you're an idiot, or we don't think that you're stupid or anything like that. I just think you're employing two different epistemologies. You have the epistemology you employed against the rainbow unicorn scenario, and you have a different epistemology you're applying towards Jesus or God or Jehovah, whatever you want to call it. I would like to see.
I have major problems with religion in itself, anyway.
Sure.
Well, yeah, another time.
Let me just think about how to unify your epistemologies. Take the method you use to tackle literally everything else except your God, and try to apply that to your God, and then see what happens.
Yeah,
sure.
And for the record, Jace, I thought Ryan G earlier was an idiot, but not you. So I do sometimes think people are idiots, but not you.
Yeah, this has been a great call, Jace. I really enjoyed talking to you.
I appreciate your time, and
Thanks,
and hopefully we'll talk again sometime. And
see ya.
Yeah, thank you very much. And
Cheers.
It's been thought provoking, and I'll go away and I'll think about this and
cool.
And examine.
This is a very long goodbye. Let's just say goodbye. All right.
See you, Lord of the Rings. 1 hour goodbyes. Thanks, Jace.
Do you know what? I was watching Fellowship, and then I think I've seen half of Two Towers in the last 2 days.
I only saw one tower.
Yeah, I only saw one tower.
Okay.
But I was watching Lord of the Rings again, and I was noticing that. So there's do you remember the fight between Saruman and Gandalf?
Yeah.
Okay, and then do you remember? There's another fight that is kind of like it, but I'm trying to remember who it was, which fight it was. But in the fight with if you go back, when's the last time you watched that fight?
Been a while, but you're talking about the one Gandalf versus Saruman on top of the tower, right?
Right before
Gandalf got captured.
Yeah. They're at the bottom, and then it stopped. He
was in prison on top of the tower.
Yeah. So watch it again, but watch it after watching. Have you ever seen the Dear Sister sketch from Saturday Night Live? The what you say, where it keeps like flashing between them all shooting each other. Watch it after that, and you'll realize that fight sequence is basically the same. It is such a silly fight sequence because it just jumps between like staff move. Oh, now I'm on the ground and super hurt. And then it flashes, it does a hard cut to them hitting back and doing it to the other person again. As though like in that time, you couldn't just staff move the guy multiple times. He's on the ground, he's hurt. Like, what would you do? And then there's like one moment where it's like, Gandalf's like, oh, and then it flashes to him doing this. Now he's up on his knees doing a spin move where he hits him with the staff. And you'll realize as you watch it again.
The fight's like jumping forward in time, like a few seconds.
Yeah, but they're in totally different positions doing new moves that the previous state they were in would imply were impossible. Much like in Dear Sister, how they're actually dead. And then suddenly it's flashing to them shooting each other again. What you say? Watch it again, and now it's going to be ruined. And there's another fight scene later in the movie that I can't remember what it is, but I remember watching it again and going, oh, Peter Jackson sucks at this specific thing. This looks really bad. This is actually a terrible fight scene. Like really, and the second one's not as bad, but I now watching the Gandalf one, I'm like, this is horrible. By the way, there was it dropped while we were on that last call, not while I was talking about Lord of the Rings. I think it was a Catherine. There was another theist who had called in, who wanted us to debunk God for her callback. But we only have time for a couple more calls. Don't forget, after this, I'm headed over to Aron Ra's channel where we will be reading the Book of Mormon. Eric, do you want to join for that?
Sure.
Read the Book of Mormon?
I'm not a Mormon, but I would love to respectfully tackle the material that's in the Book of Mormon.
Neither is Ember. And neither is, I didn't know Ember wasn't until I mentioned it one day where I kind of jokingly in a hangout with Ember was like, and why does Aron keep inviting so many Never Mormons? And then Ember was like, I'm a Never Mormon. But also Tomer, neither of them are. And I think that, I don't think Aron will have any problem with the fact that I'm inviting you. So watch Eric and I read the Book of Mormon over on Aron Ra's channel after this.
Let's do it. I grew up in Nevada, so that's next door to Mormon country. So I'm kind of an expert, kind of like how Palin's an expert on Russia because she was next door to Russia up in Alaska, right? That works. That translates.
I can see Russia from my house. By the way, let me see if anything happened. If you're watching right now, you're one of the 1,800 whatever that are watching right now. You could, if you are not subscribed already, hit the subscribe button. And technically, while we're here on the air, we're at 99,623. If 377 of you are not subscribed and subscribed right now, we would actually break 100,000 before the show is over. And I would just love that. That'd be really nice. That'd be a sweet Sunday moment. But, you know, one way or another, we'll probably hit it this week, but I'd way rather hit it today while I'm on air so you can all see my erection. All right. Moving on, making sure that there's good separation so that part doesn't accidentally make it into if we clip this next call. Secular Doomanist. It's an interesting name. So thank you for waiting so long. I know that you already know the way things work, that we prioritize theist calls. That's the reason why you've been on hold for 2 hours, but you stuck around and now you've got Eric and I, and I'm afraid we're out of time. Good. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Secular Doomanist.
That's funny. Hey, man, you cracked me up with the neck mouth thing, dude. I was laughing for a good while. And hey, Eric, hey, Jimmy. So we had a conversation on free will. Sorry,
I was doing a Beaker impression over here.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
We had a conversation on free will a while back, and it was actually related to a call you had before, and so is this. Do you remember about 3 or 4 weeks ago, you had a call from an antinatalist that was just, they were really kind of in the dumps about stuff going different ways, and you made a really compelling argument for why Americans and people in this country in general should sort of fight the good fight and stick it out and not, lose
I must have been in a good mood that day because I give up every other day too. So it must have been on one of my good days.
Well, it was about a month ago. I've actually called it a few weeks and didn't get through. But anyway, so I was actually genuinely moved by what you said, but I'm still kind of there. I'm in Oakland, California. We work, we pay out the ass for insurance.
Yeah.
We're sort of kind of demoralized, and now we have a country supporting a country that basically says we should kill civilians because we can't differentiate
Right.
civilians are civilians, and we're not doing the right thing, in my opinion. And there's just a lot of noise, and it's broken me down to the point where I wanted more from you. I wanted to hear you actually, work on that argument that there's a reason to stick it out and not try to find a escape somewhere, because I feel like this country's abandoned us, and that's kind of where I don't want to talk too much. So
no, I get it. I don't know if this is one of my good days, but I'll do my best. So the thing is what is the alternative? What's the option? Because this is something that I've noticed too with a lot of people, where they're like, well, I want to run away to, and then they'll usually list places that aren't as great as a lot of people think, but also if they're not physically far away, it's not like the bad stuff won't follow, right? Like, I don't know. But okay. So what's the alternative? Seems to me the alternative is dying. And I don't think that dying is great. I think we shouldn't do that. I think that dying is probably the worst thing, one of the worst things that can happen to a person. And it seems that we are very much look outward as we are watching a genocide happening right before our very eyes. And we seem to get it when it's other people that death is bad, so let's not die. Sorry, let me get the name tag up on here. So the other alternative, I guess, is running away to places, but who can run away? And so let me try and not do an optimistic one, like things are going to be better. Let me do a semi-appealing to maybe a little bit of altruism and shame. Let me try and shame you into staying. If you run away, you're a dick because other people can't run away. And your alternative is you having an uncomfortable, look, if you're in real danger, obviously run away. There are plenty of instances where running away is totally right. And so sometimes there are micro running away. When I lived in Denver, I had fucking crazy people coming after me from that Baptist church that I went to war with. And so I quote unquote ran away to an apartment complex with armed security. I moved because of it. So types of running away, I get it. If you're in real danger, you should. But the option to run away is privileged. And the fact of the matter is you'd be running away from a place that you have a lot of not confidence in because of the way that place is treating the people who don't have the privilege to run away. So to me, that's like such a hypocritical, narcissistic dick thing to do, to abandon them when your privilege probably will mean that, like you said, there's things that are terrible. There's ideological things that happen in this country that aren't easy to support. In a weird way, there's. I'm glad Joe Biden was the president as opposed to Trump, because this would have been way worse. And there actually has been at least some lip service happening for Palestinian civilians in that. But again, you're sitting going, I want to run away to where? Where in the world would you run away that you would feel better about the Palestinian genocide?
Okay, so I can answer that in I can't.
Right.
I can't run away.
So the other option is die. And do I need to defend why you shouldn't die, or do we already as a baseline get that?
I think it's a nihilistic hopelessness that's kind of embraced a lot of Americans now. That have, I can't imagine what it's like to have 2-3 kids. I just had a root canal, and they freaking the bills were incredible, and my insurance company just cocked me over just blatantly, like, oh, sorry, you can't.
That shit's nuts. Yeah,
you're out of net. It's just everywhere you turn, stuff in this country is pointing to decline, and I don't want to think that. I mean, I drive by piles of garbage to get to work. It's just like, dude, I'm in the wealthiest part of the wealthiest country in the world. We have all of the the tech company money is here. There's billions of dollars here. Nobody's doing anything for anybody, it feels like.
Yeah.
And
they're not paying taxes.
It's dragged me into a. Sorry. I'm sorry. What?
I was saying, because they're not paying taxes as part of that.
No, and it's just like there's potholes. I drive through a cratered runway to get to my fucking job because it's just nobody's doing shit for just people. And I don't see that trajectory. And your argument went with the call with the antinatalists, and you really did affect me when you took this position that stay and fight.
I'm sorry,
what
I'm
does
not
that
living
victory
up to
look
it.
like and how?
Oh no, okay, great. That I can answer. What it looks like and how. The best thing you can do is start being a part of other communities that are already doing things. And I honestly think that for most people, local change, local nice things, even if it only affects one person a day or whatever, that probably is the way to save your mental health and make you feel like things aren't so scary. And then sharing that with other people does the same thing, encouraging other people to look for small opportunities to help other people and do nice things for other people is probably also like, whether that's volunteering, whether it's just doing something, there's people like, I'm going to figure out how to do one good deed a day. Going to meetup.com and looking up communities. I actually do feel good in some sense of purpose, even though ultimately it'll be meaningless when I die and I'll be easily forgotten and only, maybe because I have a YouTube channel, I'll get 5 years more than the average person gets past when I die before everyone just forgets you ever existed. But it makes me feel better to know that I am in Texas because I want to be part of the movement to turn the state blue. I moved here to try and activate people around me who are already here. Because if everybody in Texas voted, it would never be red again. Never. Not even close. Like it is monumentally blue, but they've convinced all the brown people that it's not and to not vote. And that if they do vote, they're going to come after their relatives that might have compromised legal status, that kind of stuff. That there might be repercussions to the brown population.
And then that's just an unfair play, but it seems to be what is effective for the ones they were interested in those results. And they're doing it across the board. It's not just for immigration or it's healthcare and
and I know
I agree.
It doesn't help a lot of people to say what I'm about to say, but it helps me. So if it doesn't help you and a person watching is going to go, that's actually a mean thing to say, go touch fucking grass. Like if everything is horrible all the time because you're consuming so much, go outside, leave the internet for real. But on top of that, it actually helps me, and this is actually the one that I think will annoys more people, because it's almost like the count your blessings. Of course, we all suffer. We all have problems. It's all tough. And we suffer relative to our own experience. But you aren't in Gaza right now.
Yeah, right.
I literally said this.
The relative perspective is so important.
You aren't. And watch this show on Tuesday. Watch this channel on Tuesdays. Dave Warnock, my friend, but also my employee, but more my friend. He does the show Dying Out Loud. He has ALS. He is dying out loud.
Yeah, I know. I watch all that. I follow all that. And I'm not on social media. I touch grass every day. I work outdoors. I do marine electrical. I'm not like dug in like that, but I hear you.
But you know what's weird about that? The Dave has ALS and he's dying. Dave and I were on the phone yesterday and he knows I've been having health issues. Dave has ALS. But Dave asked me how my health stuff's going and gave me the opportunity to complain to him about how my health stuff's going. And when I finished it,
the guy who's dying.
Right. I did. By the way, I did. Not only did I made jokes about, so your health is, I have ALS. Well, my tummy's bugging me. I do that with Dave. And I literally said to him, he's like, how are you doing? And I was like, I ended it with, I'm not dead and I'm not in Gaza. So how bad can it be?
Yeah.
So you got to do things that are perspective building. And the three things that are going to do that are try and look for little things, count your blessings, quote unquote, compare your situation. Think about where you're not. You're not in Ukraine and you're not in Gaza. And 3, go outside. Almost all of your problems
I'm outside
are
every day, all day, but I think I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm outside every day, all day, but I think I take your point.
It's not literally outside.
A lot of but you know what I mean. But I think taking your point, it's all we can do. It's one thing we have control over versus what we don't have control over. And if we're where I am and I feel this way, I have to try to evaluate if I'm justified in having this nihilistic loathing about where the direction is. But like today, like I had a good day. I'm having a good day. Like things are fine.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't slow us down in approaching the problems of the world, reasonably as possible and trying to better things. But there is a lot of disillusion and groups of people that are offset, and I am white and privileged, and I know that, but I feel this hopelessness, and I don't want that. And when you talk to that caller, that essentially you turned them around. I mean, I think you did. You said, well, just, you'd leave your state, which would be like a micro move, like leaving a state, but you had an impact on me, because I listened to that and I was like, dude, this is exactly what I need to hear. But I think I just wanted a little bit more, and you've given me that. So I appreciate it.
I just didn't want you to think that I'm also walking on sunshine all the time.
No, how could you be?
Nothing makes me feel worse than listening to people who vote talk like some of the dumbasses we talked to earlier on this episode. They vote.
The Ryan guy was hilarious. Like, I don't know, man. I try to get something out of this every Sunday, and it kind of goes backwards sometimes. But that's what you've put your armor on for this business. So hey, thank you, man. Can
I end with condescending advice?
Sure.
That why don't you just eat healthy and exercise?
What?
Why don't you just eat healthy and exercise, and you'll be better?
Have you ever tried just not being depressed?
Eat healthy, exercise, and put your fucking head in the sand and ignore the realities of the world.
Just decide.
That is actually good, useful advice.
Just decide to be happier. Just decide.
On the attitude.
I'm not unhappy. I'm just worried, I think.
I am too.
Sorry,
I am too. Look, hey, man. Here's the thing. All right, here's the last bit of real advice, and then we got one last Thea's caller to close out the show.
Sure.
The coolest people that you can conceive of that you don't actually know are the people who killed Nazis and fought Nazis and beat Nazis.
It's true.
And you right now have the opportunity to either be a part of the people who are beating the new Nazis or the people who just fucking hung out and ordered DoorDash. Like, DoorDash.
It's so easy. It's so easy to be a dick.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know.
And be wrong.
Oh, I thought you just meant to be a dick. I was gonna say, I fucking nail it. Go fight Nazis, man.
No. All right, brother. I got it. Hey, thank you, Eric. Thank you, Jimmy. Go fuck yourselves, and I mean that in the nicest way to your guest. He's awesome.
Thanks.
He's a sniper. He just comes in when he needs to, and I love that. All right.
Okay,
go take your calls, and appreciate it. I really do. I waited a long time, and I got exactly out of this what I'd hoped.
Cool. Thanks. See ya.
All right. Take care. Bye.
One day we'll let Eric have a go at a show on his own.
I was not going to step in there and ruin that beautiful conversation. I was holding back tears, so I was
really
very happy to hear that.
Didn't feel like I was very inspiring this time. No. I'm saying so far we've only paired you with very strong hosting personalities. One day we'll give them we'll offset that with somebody a little less powerful, a little more gracious. I wouldn't call my hosting style gracious. John's pretty gracious, and I think you did it with John once.
Yeah, I hosted with John once. Yep.
Yeah, he's a very gracious host.
We didn't get any religious callers at that time, though. That was the problem. It was all politics and what was it, nihilism? I can't remember. Yeah, no religion on that one.
We're gonna end the show with Sergio. Sergio from Texas, you're on the line, and I will tell you that we're running low on time. We try to not go too far over the hour since we are headed over to Aron Ra's channel to read the Book of Mormon. But for the moment, you are on the line. If it seems like it's going to be something that would take too long, we might ask you to call either later this week or next Sunday. But let's see what we got from you, Sergio.
Okay. Hello, guys. Thank you for taking my call. I had a question of what your feelings are, your thoughts are. Eric, I believe you mentioned how your life got better after leaving religion.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you used to be a Jehovah's Witness, and my question was also about the peer review. Like you were talking about that, Jimmy. And in regards to, like, I guess, because I'm a Christian, I believe the Bible, its teachings. And so when, like you mentioned, that your life got better because you left religion. Now, when I would argue, like, if you read the scriptures and then you can even put peer review, that the teachings of the Bible have nothing. The Gospels that don't relate to making a better life. It's more of an issue of what the Bible calls righteousness, and that's you're standing before God. And I wonder if you ever considered that when you were a Jehovah's Witness, as to why maybe Jehovah's Witness was considered a cult in general when you compare teachings of different religions.
That's kind of right. That's kind of a compound question there.
Over.
Yeah, there's a lot of elements to that question. I'll go for the easiest one first.
Clarification. Let me see if I can. I just want to
go for it.
Sergio, are you basically asking Eric if he considered whether or not the reason he was unhappy wasn't because Christianity is untrue, but because he was in a Christian cult that was an extreme version of Christianity? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Are you trying to reveal whether or not I was in a true Christian religion or not? Is that kind of the thrust of the question?
Well, I'm trying to make it clear, like you mentioned peer review regarding science and different things like that, because I know that plays a part in when people say something about God.
No.
And people will scrutinize that.
No. Sir, peer review doesn't just mean that multiple people all scrutinize the same thing. It means that there's agreed upon process and standard which has to be met, and that there is meticulous work done to make sure that that standard was met. So to say it almost sounds like you're trying to suggest that a religion which is adhered to by more people or has a lot more people studying it is a peer review religion. There is historical peer review, and certain historical facts that are parts of religious books have been accepted, but you couldn't call a religion peer reviewed if that's your implication. Not a single religion would meet the meticulous standards of peer review.
And the whole point of the peer review process, is that designing the peer review process, scientists, we humans had in mind that we are biased, we are flawed in our thinking, we can tend to gravitate towards conclusions that we prefer rather than the conclusions that the evidence is pointing at. So the system was designed with that in mind. So when a conclusion is reached and consensus is reached on it, once new evidence comes into the equation, we can loop back around and reanalyze previous conclusions and perhaps revise them or reject them or confirm that, hey, they are still holding up with our current body of evidence. It's a self-correcting process with human limitations and human problems in mind. And that's not something we see in religion.
Okay. I guess what I'm trying to say is, let's say I don't know, I'm not going to say that you agree with this or that's how you think, but from what I've heard you say is that your life got better when you left religion. And what I would say is when we look at the Bible, the teachings is not saying that if you come to Christ or Jesus, you'll get a better life. It's more of,
we both know that
you'll be in righteous standard.
Neither of us don't believe in God because it makes us feel better to not believe in God. The point about it being better was a counterpoint to what was being presented. It has nothing to do with, I would believe in God if I had good reason, even if it made my life suck to believe in God. Whether I'd worship.
Yeah, we were bringing up we were bringing up the improvements in our lives in direct response to the caller's a mention of God, how God blesses his followers, and we brought up the point that, hey, we left and our blessings increased,
right?
And we were asking the caller how to account for that.
My cup overfloweth.
Yeah, we weren't posing that as, oh, this is evidence that we're now on a better, more correct track because once we left religion, our lives got better. We were not making that conclusion, that link at all. It was direct response to the blessing conversation.
Sergio, if you'll give us a good reason to believe in your God, we'll believe on the spot.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my question, I wanted to say, what I'm asking is, if someone says that come to Christ, it'll make your life a lot better. You'll get, your money will increase. You'll do this or that, whatever the case may be. Would you agree that then, okay, we can take that and now look at the scriptures and say, no, that's not what it teaches?
I don't agree that that's not what it teaches. I think that as far as money, you could say it doesn't teach that you're going to get I said I don't agree that that's not what the concept of blessings for believers is a biblical concept. Now, money-wise, you could say that there are some things that suggest that that won't happen, and other things that suggest that they will. There are. This is the nature of religious apologetics. You can make it say whatever you want, and the people who preach prosperity gospel are using the same Bible as everybody else. They're just selecting the verses and modifying how they interpret them. But the concept of blessings for believers is not absent from the book, if that's what you're suggesting. But again, I'm much more interested on whether our lives got better or not isn't actually related to whether or not the churches were true, only if they were harmful, because that was the thing that made our lives better, was the removal of a harmful thing. But I could conceive of an evil God who would harm people. I just wouldn't believe in him unless somebody is giving me a reason to believe, a good reason to believe. So whether God exists is not dependent on how much harm or bad or good your life is. And so that's what we're here to do, Sergio, is ask people like you, does God exist? And if you say yes, what is a good reason to believe that?
Okay. Well, I came to believe in Christ after reading the Gospel of John, and I also, after 20 plus years, I've been trying to ask the tough questions that are, some of them, since watching this show, I presented, and I'm still convinced that there's, I believe the scriptures to be reliable.
What does that mean? Let's just stop there then. Let's just stop there then. You said the scriptures are reliable, and you added in their historicity there at the end. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Because Sergio, real quick, do you believe that every event that is presented in the Bible actually happened? Noah's flood. Do you believe Noah's flood actually happened?
Yes, I believe that Noah's flood
but it didn't.
Happened,
but it didn't.
And I
so,
see that
Sergio,
even Jesus said that.
Hang on.
Okay.
We'll get to Jesus in a second. Sure. Do you believe that the exodus of the Jews from Egypt happened?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that Adam and Eve were the first two Homo sapiens from which all Homo sapiens come?
Yes.
So you've said that you believe the Bible is true and pointed to its historicity. You've just said three things that are confirmed to not be true. Objectively, those three things did not happen. And we have very, very good evidence, as good of evidence as you can really have for anything in history. We have very good evidence that they didn't happen. Not only with the exodus of the Jews, did those types of Jews not even exist at that time. We have a pretty good idea of who was actually there. The whole concept of the pyramids in Egypt being built by slaves, turns out it isn't true at all. In fact, the people who built Egypt were very heavily and highly revered. They were considered engineers of their time, and they were often buried along with the kings in these very extravagant tombs. So you've got three events, and you've said, I still believe in the Bible because of its historicity, despite the fact that it is, even to many Christian organizations, accepted to be garbage at history.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have almost any of the facts from the Bible verified. Even people that we do say existed, like King David, as I brought up in a previous call, we know that elements of the story of King David are actually stolen from other things. Abraham and his family didn't exist. King Solomon very likely did not. So you're sitting here and saying, because of the historicity, as though you're pointing it to it as this external thing. Well, if you look at the Bible says these things happen. And then if you go and you look through history, we find that matches. And since that matches, that lends credibility to the Bible, except for that it doesn't match. What actually happened in history was not the things that happened in the Bible. So you can't say that it is historically accurate if what you mean by it is historically accurate is the Bible says it's historically accurate, therefore it's historically accurate. The moment you leave the Bible to go and discover what history was, you find out it is a dog shit history book. So what do you mean when you say it is historically reliable?
Okay. Can I respond to some of what you said, or do I need to answer your question?
Generally, if I ask a question and leave a pause, that's when I'm indicating to you that you should respond.
Okay. Okay. No, it's because you said a lot.
Yes.
I'm willing to look at all those things you said, because you said that objectively certain things, like, for sure did not happen.
Correct.
And so I got to go look at those things of what you said, because I can hear you and use it, but I
agree. You should not just take my word for it.
If I'm reasonable, I need to go research that.
Correct.
Like you said, that the Jews didn't build Egypt. I don't think they did either. I think they were in a location within Egypt, and they might have built that. I don't know. I need to go look at that. But you said that they built the whole of Egypt.
I didn't say they built the whole of Egypt, but just
they built a part of Egypt, like a city within a
Sergio,
country. Maybe they did that.
Sergio, the story of the Exodus doesn't even work in a small local scale. The types of Jews that are described to have been the slaves of Egyptians didn't exist at that time. The whole story is made up to make brown people look bad.
Okay, then that's what I need to look for. The types of Jews.
Go look up the Adam and Eve thing. Go look up how Adam and Eve can't physically be possible. All of Homo sapiens cannot come from two Homo sapiens, especially not within the last 10,000 years. Homo sapiens as a species at minimum are 100,000 years old. And that's like if you're being super extra cautious. There are people who argue for 250,000 and up to 1 million years ago. They are much, much older than the Bible indicates the beginning of humanity was. Go look up Noah's flood. It is impossible. Sure. Not only could Noah's flood not happen based on our geological evidence, it also doesn't make sense. The atmosphere would be so adapted by being covered completely in water and getting rid of all plant life and all the other things that rely on each other to basically make the world breathe and respirate, that they wouldn't have even been able to, they would have just suffocated on the ark as well. The whole thing is made up.
So Sergio, the main thrust of all this,
you said
the main
geological, yes.
Yeah, the main thrust of all this is that we have mountains and mountains of evidence contradicting many of the claims of the Bible. So the statement that I don't know if you actually made the statement or not, but the statement that every single passage claim in the Bible is true is just patently false, because we have plenty of evidence to contradict many of the claims in the Bible. So this casts the Bible into doubt. So at this point, we can start chopping the Bible up into pieces and analyzing them individually. And what I recommend doing is, you mentioned the book of John a little bit earlier and how that's kind of the more moving of the Gospels that convinced you. I can ask you a bunch of questions about.
Where I started, yeah.
Sure, I know. But let's do one in John, because the Bible's a huge book, and we can like get caught in the weeds on tackling all kinds of things in there. Let me ask you this: why do you trust the book of John as true?
Why do I trust it?
Yeah,
I mean, it's the gospel. The gospel, like
that's the label we give it. But why do you trust it?
What's that?
Well, yeah, the gospel is a label we give it. The gospels are a collection of 4 books. We include John in that collection.
Like, I guess I don't know what there's a word called.
Can the news be good
of sin? Yeah,
can the news in the book be good and not true?
Also, the book, it's not good. The good news of all the genocide, all the bears eating babies because they made fun of a bald prophet. That's some good news.
Other than John, though.
No, I know.
Was that was Elijah.
We're just talking about the gospel.
Speaking of the way, like, if Jesus died and rose again, and he died in my place, which is called like a substitution. Like I was supposed to go to prison, but he took the fine, and so I was.
It's a touching and moving, enthralling story to many. Yes, I agree.
But he didn't die.
How does that even indicate that it's true?
He took your sins. You're still gonna die. You know that, right, Sergio? You know you're gonna die, right?
Yes, but that's not what the Bible. Like, that's what I mean about peer review. Like you said, I'm still gonna die. Of course, the scriptures teach that you're going to die physically. What it's promising is eternal life.
What do you mean about peer? You just invoked peer review.
Like,
what are you talking about?
You said something.
How is that peer review?
Peer review earlier, because you claimed something about Christianity by saying that you're still going to die.
I didn't claim
what
something
you
about
mean-
Christianity. I claimed something about what you just said, which was that Jesus was going to die in your place. But you're going to die. So he didn't die in
Right.
your place. He did
Right.
sin-related things in your place. But you said he
and I
died
agree.
in your place. Right? So what the
I
fuck
agree
do you...
that I'm
Why
going
did you
to
invoke
die.
peer review?
Because you said, like,
What do you think peer
said-
review is?
hold on. You said, well, what I'm trying to relate peer review is that I'm holding and saying that when you say that I'm going to die, I agree with that.
Right? That's
I'm
not peer
saying
review.
That's not going to happen.
Okay.
But that does not negate what the gospel is teaching about the reason Jesus died for us.
Fine. What did you mean by peer review?
I'm saying that when you say, if you were to say something about Christianity that contradicts the scriptures, that I, as your peer, can say, hey,
No,
look,
that's
at the
not what peer
scripture.
review
You're
is.
wrong because the scripture teaches this.
That's
no,
not
I'm not
what
talking
peer
about
review
science
is.
realm. I'm talking about
It's not what
claims
peer
made
review
about
is, period.
Christianity.
Unless you're trying to invent a new colloquial use. You were talking
No,
about peer
like-
review on the basis of the peer review we were talking about earlier in the show. A peer isn't just another person. So when a scientist
I
needs
know.
peer review, he sends his
agree.
experiment, and he sends the whole write-up. I'm trying to remember what the thing's called, but he sends that to other scientists who are experts in the field and are also experts at...
Yes, I agree. Like with that, meaning what I'm saying is that when we have the scriptures, okay, when someone makes a claim about God, we can say whether that's true or that's not true because we can look to the scriptures. I mean, Matt does that.
No.
Matt Dillahunty does that.
No, he
Forrest
doesn't.
Valkai said something about
No, he
Gideon,
doesn't.
and
Matt
quickly
Dillahunty does
corrected
not
him,
look to the
pointing
scriptures for whether or not the scriptures is true or not. Matt, I have
I know
sat
what I'm
next to
saying.
my... But that's the words you just said. So either be more responsible with the words you are saying...
Okay, sure. I'll try to rephrase it.
Go ahead.
I heard someone on the show say something about Gideon.
Okay.
And the next host said, no, you're wrong. The scripture says this. He did this. And then the other host said, oh, okay. That he realized he was incorrect. That's what I'm saying.
That's not what peer review is.
I'm trying to compare it. I know I might be not using peer. I'm trying
in reference to
compare
the fact that...
What's
Sergio,
that?
that's in reference to the fact that a book actually says something or not. That has nothing to relate
Correct.
to whether that statement's actually true.
That's actually just
we can argue whether the
empiricism.
Bible says something. Yeah, we can argue whether the Bible says a sentence, but it doesn't mean the sentence is true or not.
Yes,
Right.
and I know, I understand it, and I agree with that.
All right.
And that's what I guess my point is I'm trying to say the first point is that we can look at what someone says and then look to the scripture and say, well, that's wrong. This is right because this is what it says. That's my simple
Why is the
point.
Bible an authority on that? This loops back around to what I asked you earlier. Why do you trust the book of John? Why do you think what's written in John is true? And now I'm asking, why do you trust the Bible as any type of authority on truth?
When I've tried to compare the different beliefs and religions, and when I look to, I've studied a little bit about Jehovah's Witness, a little bit about Mormonism and other religions, and I find that when I read the Gospels and the Scriptures, I find it to be the most, I don't know, be careful with the word I use. Because
so you can compare Christianity. You can compare Christianity with every other religion in the world and find that you're most comforted by Christianity, but that does nothing to demonstrate whether Christianity is actually true or not.
But also,
they can all be wrong.
Okay.
And what you just said was also nonsense.
It's not about comfort.
Sergio, what you also just said was nonsense because you said, I'm somewhat familiar with it. I've checked out lots of them. I checked out Jehovah's Witnesses. I checked out Mormonism, but I come down on the side of the book that those religions also accept. You haven't even left Christianity. And as Eric points out, how about the option that they're all wrong? It's weird because no one has any problem imagining why a person would invent religions. They're just sure theirs wasn't. That's it. This pause means I think you're thinking, and this means it's probably a good place to leave it. But do call back because we want to finish the conversation. But we're 20 minutes over and eating into Aron's show as well. Yeah. Eric, were you about to say something?
Appreciate your call.
Yes,
appreciate taking my call.
Let Eric finish with you real quick.
Yeah, well, it was a pleasure talking to you, Sergio, and sorry we came across as strong, but we hear this a lot, and so we can get a little fired up about it.
I'm not sorry.
Honestly, yeah, I am. It's okay. Honestly, ask yourself whether you're approaching this with the assumption that one of them is true, and ask yourself: is that an assumption, or is that a presupposition that you have justification for? That might be a bad way to put it, because presuppositions are only justified by the fact that they work. Like, ask yourself, are you coming with that assumption that one of these must be true? And you're completely out of hand eliminating the possibility that they're all not true. Ask yourself that if you're analyzing this. And if there's some element of Christianity that sings to you, ask yourself, can that element sing to me? Can it convince me, but it still not be true?
On top of it, I would ask yourself what it would take not to necessarily go, this is untrue, but to at least go, I don't have a good enough basis to believe this is true. What would it take?
Yeah.
What information would be contradictory? What information? Because it is very weird. I see a lot of people who like are young earth creationists. And then they do learn science. They learn biology. They learn about how these things that they are so staked in can't be true. And so then when they go and they're like, oh, okay, well, in that case, I'm not just going to go, this religion isn't true. I'm just going to say the specific claims that these things address, they're just stories and metaphors, but the rest is still fundamentally true, even though the rest is basically the unfalsifiable parts, the parts that there is no way to investigate and see if they're true or not, because it's magic. And it's just wild to me. It's just wild. And those are the people who, if that's all they have left, they don't have a good reason to believe, because they don't have a single verifiable thing to believe on. And Sergio, that's the work you got to do.
Yeah. And that's also the reason why we start at the position of skepticism. Skepticism just simply says we reserve belief until there's sufficient evidence to justify belief. And that includes everything: political positions, scientific positions, religious positions. We reserve belief until evidence is there to support one. We don't start with, we're going to pick one that we like for whatever reason, and then compare those to everything else. And if those other things don't compare to the one we like, then we can accept the one we like. That's not skepticism. That doesn't protect you against believing things that are false or believing things that can harm you. In fact, it opens you up to them. So I think that's the fundamental difference between our starting point of skepticism and yours.
Sergio, I've got one last thing to say, but I'm worried that it's too harsh of a tease and you won't call back if I say it. So can I just tell you now it's just a joke for fun and you should still call back?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Cool. All right. Sergio, go ahead and say goodbye, and then Eric and I will also say goodbye as a method of peer review.
Oh, what do you mean?
It's a joke. All right. It's fine, Sergio. Go ahead, say goodbye.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
See you, bud.
Bye, Sergio. Good talking to you.
Bye.
How many times did I change the way did I say Sergio and Sergio several times that call? I think I did.
I might have done it too.
I like that you smiled. You got the peer review joke. That's good. That's good. For those watching, the joke is that also is not peer review. We are headed over to Aron Ra's channel to read the Book of Mormon. I think we have the auto redirect on there. But in the meantime, this was Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrels. Check out his channel. Come over and watch us read the Book of Mormon together. Eric, I sent you on WhatsApp the link to the new one. I'll be a couple minutes behind because I'm going to move downstairs. But and these are our top level patrons, and you should consider becoming one. Going to patreon.com/calltheline. Come back tomorrow. Forrest Valkai and Hazel. I'm trying to remember what Hazel said. The climate change document person. Man, I don't even know what to call it. She talks a lot about climate change. She's brilliant. I fucking love her. I actually requested he get her back. And is just the best. All right, well, do that and things and words and stuff. Say goodbye, Eric.
Bye, folks.